We on? Thank you. Okay, welcome. This is the Jordan School District Board of Education meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. We are at the JATC South Building, and we have, starting down at this end, our attorney, Mr. Paul Van Komen, board member Bryce Dunford, Lisa Dean, Marilyn Richards, Nikki George, I'm Tracy Miller, Darrell Robinson, and Brian Barnett, our superintendent, Dr. Godfrey, associate superintendent, Dr. Anderson, and our business administrator, Mr. John Larson. Thank you for joining us. We did have a study session and summer retreat at South Jordan Elementary today. Had a tour of some of our new technology that's going into all of our schools. And that was all recorded, and that will be posted online by the end of the day tomorrow and indexed like we normally do, so you can go right to different agenda items and listen to what was discussed there. This meeting is being live streamed, so welcome to those of you who are joining us online also. We are going to start out with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Mike Anderson, and then we will have our reverence offered by Ms. Carolyn Goff, who's our Administrator of Teaching and Learning.
Would the audience please rise? Please repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. In light of Monday being a state holiday and an opportunity to celebrate our state's great history, Pioneer Day, I share with you this quote, which I need my glasses for. With the complex issues facing our families and our friends, our citizens, our state, our neighbors, our nation, the world, may we remember pioneers of an earlier day who persevered against injustice, misunderstanding, some intolerance, occasional bigotry, occasional racism, against differences of custom and traditions of faith, who labored against all of that to carve out for us, their descendants, the wonderful day and the marvelous, miraculous time in which we live. We owe the same pioneering, persevering legacy to our children and our children's children. Mr. Jeffrey R. Holland.
Thank you. Resolutions of appreciations. Ms. Rich.
Whereas dedicated service to Jordan School District was faithfully and effectively performed, whereas they consistently and conscientiously executed their responsibilities with integrity, honesty, and loyalty, be it therefore resolved that the Jordan School District Board of Education and the district administration declare appreciation for the outstanding service that was performed in the cause of public education, and hereby express our sorrow at the death of these valued friends. Kenneth Lee Black, teacher. Linda Marjorie Anderson Klein, behavior specialist and instructional assistant. And Lorraine Thomas Naylor, counseling assistant.
Thank you. Does anyone have any school recognitions?
I'll just say, I think this summer has been busier than ever before, and I've taken a lot of advantages. Our teachers do a lot of things in the summer. Specifically, I was able to go to an online school convention that we hosted in our district with a virtual academy. We had other of our people around the state come in, and it was a wonderful day I spent with them. And also, I've been spending some time with some of our teachers who are working with how to implement AI into our schools. And that's been really, really interesting to look at the program called School AI and how can you use this and things like that. And wherever I go, I see a group of teachers. I saw a group at the Capitol the other day, and just they're all still sharpening the saw and getting better for the school year, which is shortly to come. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Superintendent, do you have any recognitions tonight?
Yes, I would agree with Mr. Robinson that things are busier in the summer than ever, and the summer always feels shorter than ever. And everyone's work changes in the summer. People ask me about that, and my work changes. I've been extremely busy, but it does shift. And I'm glad that our Director of Custodians is here, Steve Peart, because I want to honor our custodians. Their work changes over the summer, but their work intensifies over the summer because they're trying to make the best of the time when those buildings are empty. For the most part, they're not as empty as I know our custodians would like them to be, but they're trying to do their best to work around, just get prepared for the year, and they work very hard to do that deep cleaning and repair. And we have Dave Rostrom here as well, and the summers are very, very busy for him as he and his staff make those remodels possible and get all those summer projects going. And we're building a school, we're remodeling a school, we're doing all kinds of summer projects. So I'm grateful to each of them and the people who work with them and the work that they're doing this summer to get us ready for a school year that starts faster than it feels like it should be, but it's coming quickly. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you. Okay, we are now to our public comment section. We've got 3 different portions tonight. Our elected officials. Do we have any elected officials here? I didn't think I saw anybody. Okay. And then we have specific public comment on our proposed K through 6 language arts curriculum that we'll take first, and then we will take the regular patron comments. So just the guidelines for everybody for all patron comment is the board welcomes all public comment. I think this is something that our whole board feels strongly about is taking the time to hear from our patrons, which we do a lot outside of board meeting, but it's important to take time in board meeting also. We don't take public comment on personnel issues or statements regarding character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual during board meetings. So if you have concerns with a specific individual, we ask you to contact us outside of the meeting. Comments have to be age appropriate as we're streaming the meeting, and we don't generally discuss things that aren't on the meeting. Well, we don't discuss things that aren't on the meeting's agenda. So generally, if we're not responding, it is just our time to listen, and then we will either follow up or put something on a later agenda for that. Everyone that speaks, when you come to the microphone, if you will please state your name, and I will call your name out, but if you'll still just state your name, so we make sure we have the right person at the microphone, and then you'll be given a maximum of 3 minutes. And we do have a lot of people speaking tonight, so we'll ask everyone to please be respectful of the time. First of all, before our first one is public comment specific to the K-6 language arts curriculum, and the one being proposed is Wit and Wisdom. And I just want to briefly, before we get to that, we did just have a discussion during our study session about that. There were a couple of open houses last week that we had, was it 200 people attend that, and so our curriculum department gave us a summary of the feedback that was received from that, and then also answered a lot of questions. As a board, we did not make any decisions or even give any direction moving forward, and we also didn't finish discussing it. So that was on our study session agenda. After we finish our business meeting tonight, we're going to go back and finish our study session. So we will get back to continuing our discussion on that. Right now, we're scheduled to vote for it at our next meeting on August 8th. Does anyone have anything else to add on that? The date of the next. Oh, yes. There's also one more open house coming up, and that is this Thursday. And at that, our curriculum department will be there along with all of the materials. Parents, school employees are all welcome to come. It'll be between 8 and 6, so you can come by any time during the day. and it's at our Auxiliary Services Building, which is on Redwood Road, 7800 South. Entrance D. Okay. Anything else from that? Okay, so we will start with that public comment. We've got, looks like 7 on Wit and Wisdom, and then I think all the 8 online comments that are about the curriculum also. Okay, so we will start with Sarah Bennett, and then on deck will be Tamara Moore. So Sarah.
Okay, so I'm Sarah Bennett, and so this is a quote I want to start with. There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is by not reading them, and that's a quote by Joseph Brodsky, who was a Russian and American poet. Then another quote, with school turning out more runners, jumpers, racers, tinklers, grabbers, snatchers, flyers, and swimmers, instead of examiners, critics, knowers, and imaginative creators, the word intellectual, of course, became the swear word. And that's by Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. So it feels like the school system isn't set up for encouraging critical thinkers. So a family member, we won't mention names, he goes to school. He asked me recently, why do we go to school? And I replied, we got to learn to be yes ma'am, yes sir kind of people. And so our own children are questioning the school system. So we really need to encourage critical thinkers and not punish them. Think of a time when a mistake was made. All it would have taken is one person to question authority, and our country wasn't founded on yes ma'am, yes sir kind of people. Even in leadership, school, some leadership, we might need more critical thinkers. So I think it makes sense to teach children to question the government, as in the book George versus George. And I also, going with that, feel like our children and district employees, it would do them well to know their rights. And a mandatory class for students and teachers and employees is past the time of being needed to learn about their rights in the U.S. Constitution. They're learning about the history, but we all need to learn about our rights. And a society that gets rid of all its troublemakers goes downhill, which is another quote by Robert A. Einstein. And then as far as Walk Two Moons, some may think 4th grade is too soon to learn about stillbirth from a book. Our family, at the time, one of them being 1st to 2nd grade, learned about stillbirth through real life. So these are real issues that some learn way before reading about it in a book. And my only objection to that book is they refer to the baby as a it instead of a living being. But I'm here today to ask the board if they could make it mandatory for employees, like children, everybody, to learn about their rights in the U.S. Constitution. And in closing, I'll quote as I did in the beginning. So can I just close?
Really quickly, yeah.
Yeah. So we need to not be let alone. We need to be really bothered once in a while. How long has it been since you were really bothered about something important, about something real? Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. And then also, if you hide your ignorance, no one will hit you and you will never learn. Ray Bradbury.
Thank you. Tamara Moore, and then followed by Carrie Atkinson.
Hi, I'm Tamara Moore, and I'm a 5th grade teacher in our district. I would like to express my support of the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. I like that it provides students with the opportunity to read novels in full and to hold books, rather than just reading from a basal. I also like that each unit is based on a larger theme. I teach 5th grade, and I am excited that the units somewhat match our social studies core, which is different. We have a unit on Native American cultures, a unit on the Civil War, and a unit on breaking barriers in the 20th century. I love the focus on diversity. I think it's important for our students of color to see themselves in the literature that we read. And I also think it's important for our students who might not experience prejudice every day to learn about it in a safe environment with an adult who helps them to process what they are reading. This gives our students an opportunity to learn empathy for others. I know that one of the concerns that has been or will be brought up is the lack of phonics instruction. We already use 95% Heggerty, MSRC, and others, so that's not a huge concern for me, because I know we're already addressing that aspect of learning and of reading, and we really do need to address comprehension and loving books. I am aware of the concerns that some parent groups have about this curriculum. I've read their articles, I have watched their videos, and what I learned is it's really easy to make a book look scary when you just pick out 10 scary words from the book. It's a lot easier to make sense of this with the help of a teacher who can help you put it in context. For example, one of the stakeholder concerns with the age appropriateness of a text in the 5th grade curriculum is called The Boys' War, because of some of the photographs from the Civil War. My response to this concern is we need to give our kids more credit. I'm honestly not sure how I should teach the Civil War without letting my students know that war is ugly. The American Civil War is the first time that the general public was able to see the horrors of war because of photographic evidence. I think it's important to note that at the beginning of the Civil War, citizens literally were picnicking at the site of the first battle, which I learned as a 5th grader in this district. It wasn't until photographs were released to the public that civilians were able to fully appreciate what soldiers were experiencing. I read that book today, and yes, it's heartbreaking. There are heartbreaking accounts of young boys who learn to become soldiers. It's brutal. However, what I also know about most kids is that they will only process what they are capable of processing, and it is better for them to process these horrors with the help and guidance of an adult than if they were to stumble on it on their own. I know that you are going to be hearing from many people about negative things about Wit and Wisdom. I know you've received emails. I would ask you to remember that this curriculum was vetted and chosen by a committee of educators, people who know kids and know how to teach them. If not this curriculum, what curriculum would others have us choose? Please remember that most of us are perfectly happy with Wit and Wisdom and will continue to and will start using it. Don't let the loud voices of a few outweigh the quiet voices of the many.
Thank you. Carrie Atkinson, followed by Jennifer Price.
Hi, my name is Carrie Atkinson. I live in District 2 and I have 4 children in Jordan School District, grades 5 through a senior next year. And of my children, a number of us struggle with dyslexia, including myself. So for the last 12 years, I have done a very deep dive into reading, even becoming certified as a reading tutor myself. What I am here to tell you is that half of my caseload in the last 2 years have shifted from my common dyslexic kids who can't decode, who can't spell, to kids who can't comprehend. I don't know if this is COVID. I don't know if this is, I'm just getting older kids, but these kids read fluently, but they lack comprehension skills. As I've sought out to find out how to help them and talk to private schools and educators across the country, Wit and Wisdom was recommended over and over again as the curriculum I needed to use with my students. And I'm here to speak in support of that. I took the opportunity to go to the open house and I went through the 5th grade curriculum in depth, and I've already ordered all the books for myself and my child to read together. I'm so grateful for this opportunity for them to learn comprehension. We have really great reading. We have Haggerty phonemic awareness. We have the tools to get them to read fluently. They need to understand and be able to write. This is the next step. Also, as a parent, if I have a concern, I know all the books. I can buy them. I can read them with my child, and I can instill my personal values with my child so when she goes to school, she's fully able to take part and understand. So I feel that this is a benefit to them, and I feel like this is a really needed next step for our kids to be able to comprehend, which is the end goal of reading. That's why we read, is to comprehend, learn, and be able to share what we know. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Price, followed by Michael Atkinson.
My name is Jennifer Price. I'm the parent of 4 students in Jordan School District. I'm an advocate for students with dyslexia and author of the Utah State Handbook, previous president of Decoding Dyslexia Utah, and a middle school CTE teacher at Sunset Ridge. Members of the board, Superintendent Godfrey, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Larson, thank you for all that you do to support students and teachers in Jordan School District. I'm here today to thank you for the impactful changes you have made to elementary literacy instruction over the past few years, and to ask you to support the adoption of Wit and Wisdom. A few months before my family moved to Utah 9 years ago, one of my 4 children was diagnosed with dyslexia. When we moved to Utah, it was difficult to get her the help she needed in Jordan School District. Over the years, all 4 of my children have since been diagnosed with dyslexia. We've paid thousands of dollars for private tutors to help my children with dyslexia learn to read. This led me to get involved in dyslexia advocacy here in Utah. I have sat on committees and task forces at USBE. I've traveled the country meeting and learning from the leading researchers in the cognitive neuroscience of reading. I brought many of those leading researchers to Utah to train hundreds of teachers in the science of reading. A few years into my advocacy journey, I remember thinking that my advocacy work would most likely not have an impact until my grandchildren were in school. Imagine my joy as I stand here today, 6 or 7 years later, and 2 of my children in elementary school are getting evidence-based reading instruction on the science of reading in their classrooms. They are finding success in school without extremely expensive tutoring. Their teachers have excellent curriculum and have received letters training. My kids are getting fabulous Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, as well as getting this instruction in their special education classrooms. Wit and Wisdom is the last missing piece to make sure we are teaching all 5 pillars of literacy. I have extensively reviewed the curriculum and many other available curricula, and I find it to be one of the very best available resources to meet the current literacy needs of our district. It works hand in hand with what we have in place, encourages critical thinking, and exposes students to rich vocabulary, and I hope you will make the decision to make it available to all of our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Atkinson, followed by Christina Bogus.
Good evening. It's wonderful to be here with you great people. My name's Michael Atkinson. I'm 17 and I'll be a senior at Riverton this year. So I think I'm the youngest guy in the room here. So out of fear of offending someone, I can't speak to the educational benefits of this curriculum because I'm obviously not an educator and I have no training or experience educating children. However, I do have experience being educated because that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm also probably by and large the closest one who's actually been in 6th grade within living memory, so I'll speak to that. The reason why I wanted to speak with you guys is because I have researched this through social media outlets and emails and board statements, and looking at the curriculum, obviously I can't speak to its academic merit, however I can speak to the content. Now, there is a lot of fear, and I've seen this fear of, we don't want to expose our kids to adult concepts, and we don't want to expose them to something that they can't understand or that is dramatic or life-changing, but their life is going to change and the world's dramatic and scary, and then that 5 or 6-year-old or that 5th or 6th grader that you see now is going to become an adult. And those adults are going to sit on boards like this. Those adults are your leaders, your teachers, your soldiers, and any other major facet of society. At some point, they will have to step up and fill those shoes of those who have come before them. Now, in 5th and 6th grade, they're still in 5th and 6th grade. So there's obviously needs to be limits on what you will teach your child because they're a child, but you need to accept that they need to be exposed to some of the darker and more morbid and scarier concepts of the world because they're going to have to deal with them. Combine that with the fact that my generation is overloaded with information and dialogue that they can't understand and that they shouldn't be exposed to at that age. And whether or not you hide it from them in schools, they're going to find it. Because I found it, because I've lived it. So I would encourage the board not to act in fear of teaching your children something that they might not understand, and rather I'd encourage you to fear them not understanding the world that they'll have to live in, and that they'll be required to stand up and lead into the future. And so I hope that despite my lack of educational qualification, that I can shed light onto this issue and help you make a decision that will benefit our community and our wonderful children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Christina Bogus, followed by Heather Belcher.
Good evening. My name is Christina Bogus. In full disclosure, I am an elected official, but my hand was full and I didn't get it up in time. So
And I apologize. I realized
it's all good.
after the
It's
fact
not your
that
fault.
you were here.
It is mine. I am here to speak about the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. And when school districts that I represent, when things come before you, they often come before me. And I've been a little busy and haven't had the opportunity or the faculties to send an email. And so I thought just speaking to you tonight might be appropriate. And I would just ask you to maybe, if you could, find a time that maybe we could get together. I've done some research on this curriculum and I don't find it to be over a cliff, but I have done some research that does cause me some concerns, and I would like to share that with you. And not just share it with you, I would like to dialogue with you about what it might mean to you, what it means to me, and then maybe perhaps influence your decision, regardless of whether it influences one way or the other. I feel like as a board member myself, sometimes information comes at me like a fire hose. And the conversation about that information often provides more insight than the information itself. And so I'm excited to hear that you're not making a decision tonight, but I would like to share with you some information and sit down and have a conversation. I do appreciate your service to the people of this district and to the people of our state. I know that what you do is not always easy. It's time-consuming and arduous, and so thank you for your service. And I hope to connect with some of you. Phone is best. You all have my phone number. But I would like to connect with you and just have some raw, authentic dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Heather Belcher, and then we'll go to the online comments that are pertaining to the curriculum.
Heather Belcher. It's been a while. Nicole reviewed the Second Step program for 40 hours to find the patterns in what we saw in Second Step. I reviewed the 4th grade curriculum for only 2 hours. There were several things I was not impressed with, what I would say is not appropriate for 4th graders. Some topics have already been brought up. A chapter titled The Marriage Bed in a book, cartoon pictures of a bloody soldier who've died, real pictures of a 14-year-old who died in war, and other pictures. Kids don't need these visual images. A Newbery Award-winning book that states on the book for 10 to 14-year-olds that we're going to put in the hands of 9 and 10-year-olds. A mother who gives birth in front of her 13-year-old and the baby was strangled. It's graphic enough that that's my job as a parent. I get to describe those situations to my child, not a teacher in a school. 3 books mention cannibals. Not just one, and not just the legend of the cannibal monster, but why in 3 books do we need to discuss cannibals? The reference material used that refers to knives and emergency childbirth. It's also not a 4th grade reference book. I don't send my kids to school to learn, as was previously stated, adult content. I understand that many of our children are already exposed to many of these things. I sat in your last meeting an hour ago, and it was carefully skirted around that we will teach our teachers how to teach this material. Why would we spend $6 million on a 5-year program that then we need to educate our teachers on how to navigate these sensitive subjects? I don't approve.
Thank you. Mr. Larson.
Emily Dahl. Hello, as a Jordan School District parent and educator, I strongly encourage the board to consider adopting the Wit and Wisdom ELA curriculum. After consulting with our literacy specialists and reviewing the materials myself, I believe it is an excellent choice for our elementary students, including my own. It is more in line with the science of reading than our current Journeys curriculum and would be a beautiful resource for our teachers and learners. One thing in particular that I love about the curriculum is the use of class sets of picture books and novels instead of the traditional anthology-style textbook of stories. This promotes a more authentic reading experience for all children and helps put actual stories and text in the hands of our readers. Many children at our Title I schools, like where I work, don't have home access to a multitude of books like Wit and Wisdom will offer them. I also appreciate the wide variety of quality literature chosen for each grade level to read throughout the year. There is a great balance of classics and newer literature that can appeal to our diverse district student body. Thank you for your consideration in choosing Wit and Wisdom for our teachers and students. Sincerely, Emily Dahl. Pamela Hansen. Dear board members, I am thrilled to express my enthusiasm and passion regarding the potential implementation of the K-6 literacy program, Wit and Wisdom. Having actively participated in the RFP process to select a new program to replace Journeys, I am convinced that Wit and Wisdom holds immense promise for our district. During the review process of various programs, Wit and Wisdom stood out for its simplicity and ease of understanding. The program's clear and cohesive components left a strong impression on me, and I was particularly impressed by its incorporation of a comprehensive writing program. Moreover, the program caters to the needs of a diverse range of learners, including EL/MLs, students requiring academic scaffolding, as well as those deemed advanced learners. In my 40-year career with Jordan School District, I found Wit and Wisdom to be a breath of fresh air compared to the previous programs we've utilized. One of the key strengths of Wit and Wisdom lies in its teacher-centric design. The program understands the importance of providing educators with a comprehensive view of all its components, allowing for seamless integration with existing programs, such as Heggerty for phonetic awareness, Really Great Reading for phonics, and 95% group for intervention. By acting as the reading and writing component that complements these programs, Wit and Wisdom ensures a cohesive and effective approach to literacy instruction. The remarkable progress we've seen in our reading scores in comparison with our district's history and state averages demonstrates the positive impact of the intensive programs we've adopted in the lower grades. As a teacher, I've been engaged in countless discussions with my colleagues to enhance our school's overall writing curriculum. The writing program in Wit and Wisdom was nothing short of awe-inspiring, as it offers a rigorous and progressively structured curriculum starting from kindergarten. It streamlines the planning and implementation process, empowering us to develop stronger writers with each passing grade. The excitement expressed by all grade representatives during the RFP about the writing program affirms its potential to elevate our students' writing abilities. Perhaps one of the most admirable aspects of Wit and Wisdom is its commitment to inclusion for all learners. As a teacher who has worked across various grade levels and teaching specialists, I have developed a wide array of techniques to support different learning styles. Wit and Wisdom's mission to integrate various teaching tools and styles aligns perfectly with my own approach to instruction. The incorporation of art throughout the lessons, along with the integration of reading, writing, and science, social studies, enhances the learning experiences for both the students and teachers. The program's flexibility to cater to EL/ML students, academically at-risk children, on-track learners, and accelerated learners ensures that every child in my classroom will find their needs addressed. Pamela Hansen, it goes on quite a bit more.
That to us.
I will forward it to the board. Yep. Haley Teague. Wit and Wisdom supports educators in bridging the knowing better and doing better gap. As an educator who attempted to bridge this gap last year, I was overwhelmed and spent countless hours outside contract time trying to do better for my students. Wit and Wisdom explicitly and systematically builds and integrates reading, writing, speaking, and listening instruction through content-rich, complex text with science and social studies connections. This integration of skills and content is critical for current and future student success. It provides teachers with a clear roadmap and support to do better. Thank you for this investment, and students and teachers. Sincerely, Haley Teague. Aaron Barrow. My name is Aaron Barrow from West Jordan. I am the parent of 4th and kinder age children. I recently went to the open house that the district held about the new literacy curriculum and wanted to express how excited I am for this new curriculum. Talking with the employees at the open house, it was clear how much thought and time was dedicated to finding a curriculum that was close to what they had been using, met the district standards, and would also be rich and full of new things that will benefit all children. My 4th grader is excited that the books being read are individual instead of in a large textbook style. I was pleased that they were handing out book lists for all grades and hope you will make this available on a website or at each school office. From what I saw at the open house, I feel this new curriculum will help kids really understand and properly use vocabulary. I think the stories and discussion questions will help our children learn to think critically, ask deeper questions, and understand the world from different points of view. Our children are growing up in a different world than generations before, and they need, and I believe are ready, for more information, literature, and experiences that will help them navigate this divisive world. Giving our children tools to think and act in compassion and understanding is the key to helping the world be a better place. Thank you for putting our children first by doing your best to provide meaningful education. Sincerely, Aaron Barrow. Nicole Hansen. I have taught grades 1st through 4th in the Jordan District for the past 14 years. I have seen many literacy programs over the years. I have learned to take what has been provided and do a lot of supplementing on my own to ensure the core is being taught to my students at all levels and abilities. My last few years, I have really liked the phonics and language curriculum that we have implemented as a district, yet I still felt that we were lacking in the other areas of literacy. My professional opinion is that wit and wisdom curriculum is what we have been missing. The wit and wisdom curriculum is strong in vocabulary, listening and speaking, comprehension, and writing. Wit and wisdom will allow all students to interact with real books and experience reading at a rigor that other curriculums simply cannot offer. Wit and wisdom will be for the new teacher and the veteran teacher. With all programs, it takes time to implement and time to help adapt the program to fit the needs of all students and communities. However, wit and wisdom is organized in a way that is authentic to a reader and not abstract as most one-size-fits-all reading textbooks have been in the past. If we choose to implement this program and add it alongside the existing phonics program, I know teachers will need to do less supplementing with other materials, and they will have more of what they need to meet the needs of all students by implementing wit and wisdom. I support this program as a teacher and hope that the Jordan School District Board approves. Nicole Harris. Brian Barrow. My name is Brian Barrow, and my 2 sons attend Riverside Elementary School in 4th grade and kindergarten. I visited the district offices the other day to look at the curriculum, and it seems like a fantastic program. Having read a lot of the books on the list when I was a kid, I am excited to read them with my kids also. Looking at the structure of the curriculum, it really feels like the methods of teaching are improving, and I am really happy to see the district make moves to adopt such a rich curriculum. Life is different today, and the new curriculum seems very well equipped to help our children navigate things they will be confronted with. Learning to understand all points of view is essential to building an equitable and functioning society. I know there are some loud voices in the community that disagree, so I wanted to make sure my support made it through. Our children deserve the best, and this curriculum seems to fit the bill. Brian Barrow. Steve Morrison. To whom it may concern, I am writing you concerning the adoption of the proposed wit and wisdom. Through a brief review of the curriculum at the open house, it appears to be a great program that will develop more critical skills in reading comprehension and speaking and listening. It does teach formal writing, which is great. I didn't see a whole lot of language in the upper grades, specifically 5th grade. While I support the adoption of this program, I want to voice my opinion that it does not meet all of the necessities of the core. Wit and Wisdom limits the upper grades to minimal text, and while they are social studies-based text, they do not meet the needs of a full social studies spectrum text-wise. Also, it appears that there is one formal writing piece per unit. This is acceptable for all grades but 5th because they are tested in writing and need several opportunities to practice this skill. In conclusion, I believe that Wit and Wisdom will be a great resource for teachers, but will ultimately have to be supplemented with more social studies text and writing opportunities. This should not be expected as the one and only resource teachers are required to use. Sincerely, Steve Morrison. Sheila Staley. Dear board members, I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Eastlake Elementary School, and I have taught over 30 years. I went to the open house for 2 hours for the possible new reading curriculum. I really liked Wit and Wisdom. It fills in the holes of HD word phonics of what was missing on the reading rope that we learned about while taking our letters training. I have loved teaching really great reading, but we needed more. Also, I really liked how easy it is to use. Everything is already organized and shows the teachers what to say and how long the lesson should last. All of the materials are included and so straightforward. Another factor that was excellent, each unit has a student workbook of consumables. This would cut back on the copying we usually have to do in order to teach comprehension, vocabulary, and writing activities. The beauty of the curriculum is how the spelling and writing are embedded into the lessons while teaching comprehension and vocabulary. We have made such great strides in helping students learn to read, especially in the early grades. I know that if you approve Wit and Wisdom, you will see scores increasing in literacy even more. This is a perfect component in addition to really great reading that will meet the reading goals of the district and the state. Thank you. Sincerely, Sheila Staley.
Thank you. That concludes public comment on the new K-6 language arts curriculum. We do appreciate the feedback, and again remind everyone of the open house this Thursday. Encourage everyone to attend and take the opportunity to look through that curriculum. And feel free to contact us. Our phone numbers and email addresses are on the website. We will also take comment again before we vote on it. Okay, so now we will go to our patron comment section for things not on the agenda. And we've got 2 people that have signed up, so we'll hear from Scott Shaws, followed by Lindsay Hinkins. Sorry if I got your name wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I appreciate it. My name is Scott Schaus. I am a proud father of 2 students here in the Georgia School District. I'm also a medical provider here in the community. And as such, I'm here today to advocate and hopefully further the discussion of the need to have late start times for our junior high and high schoolers specifically. Now, if you'll indulge me, I want to give you a brief physiology lesson to hopefully better understand why this is needed. But first, let me pose this question. How many hours of sleep does a teenager need? 9 to 11, 10 hours average. That's a lot. The average adult needs 8 hours, okay? They significantly need more sleep to be able to function. Now, why is this recommended? Not only, there's tons of data to support this, right? And not only is it recommended, but it's highly endorsed by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, Pediatrics, even your own education association endorses this as well. Now, to understand why we need to change the start times, understand teenager physiology. Teenagers are naturally night owls. Their bodies are programmed to go to bed later and sleep in later. And it's hard to manipulate that, okay, without the right tools and education behind that. It's hard to have a teenager to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier to be able to function. And of course, there's a lot of different factors that can, impact their bedtimes and their wake-up times. Now, I want you to all think back in a time of your life, maybe it's in the current present, of times where you've been sleep deprived, okay? Maybe for a short term or long term. How did that make you feel? You probably didn't feel very well. You probably struggled in your quality of life with your cognition, your memory, your mood, your relationship with others, your work performance, whatever it may be. Now translate that to a child, a teenager, and you expect them to get up and perform well? They're not. They're going to have cognition issues. They're going to have lack of focus. It's going to look like ADD. It's going to look like ADHD. They're going to have depressive symptoms. They're going to have anxiety symptoms. They may have suicidal ideation. They're at increased risk for motor vehicle accidents. This has all been proven. This is clinical data. Poor athletic performance, and the list can go on and on and on, okay? Now, changing the start times isn't the only solution. There's a lot of factors that play into it. I understand, and I'm sure you've dove into this quite extensively, but I would encourage you to continue the discussion. There's risks and there's benefits. Okay, in medicine, we evaluate the risks and benefits all the time. Yes, this medication may pose a risk, but we're going to take it because it's going to have a benefit for us. And I would encourage you to continue this discussion. I'm happy to lend my services and education to that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lindsay Hinkins.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Hinkins. I have 4 children. The older 2 are going into high school and middle school. As a mom of kids this age, obviously mental health is something that I'm concerned about and interested in learning more about. And as I dove into researching the topic, I kept coming across this idea of later start times for older kids, for schools. And I was surprised to learn that it's recommended by the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics. California has adopted it. Seattle adopted it with great results. And our own Utah legislature recommended that the schools in our state make this change. I'm a little bit surprised and confused as why the change hasn't taken place. I've been communicating with our representative, Bryce Dunford. We, at his suggestion, sent out a petition. It didn't get as much interest as he thought, but still, for the limited people that we sent it to, most people were excited about the idea and signed it. I think Mr. Dunford's concern was that parents of elementary school students wouldn't want to get them up earlier, but everyone that I spoke to felt like their elementary school students are naturally early risers anyway. And so that is kind of the more logical switch, although change is obviously complicated and hard. When it comes down to it, for me, I'm seeing something that has been proven in lots of other areas to improve school performance, which has recently, again, been in the news, and the news is not good, and improve mental health outcomes, which obviously are a huge concern for everyone working with teens. And the cost is basically nothing. I mean, I understand it would be a process to get things switched, and lots of people are going to have different opinions about it, but I think putting the mental health of our teens at the forefront of this issue makes it a no-brainer. And I hope, like Scott Schau said, that the board will continue this discussion and invite public comment, because I think that it's what we owe it to our kids. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes our patron comment section. Thank you all for your participation tonight. Okay, we will move on. I need a motion to approve our consent agenda items.
I move that we approve our consent agenda items.
A motion by Ms. Dean, second by Ms. Richards to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda items?
I move that we accept the consent agenda items.
A second.
A motion by Ms. Dean, second by Mr. Barnett to accept the consent agenda items. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. That motion passes unanimously. Can I get a motion for our first bid?
I move that we accept the bid for West Jordan High School uniform and apparel discount incentive.
Okay, motion by Ms. Dean, second by Mr. Robinson to approve the bid. Is there discussion to that motion?
I have a question. Do all of our high schools have apparel contracts? Is that normal? Do middle schools have apparel contracts?
Middle schools do not. High schools all have apparel contracts because of the volume that they use.
And the amount in the bid, what is it? It's not actually buying apparel. It's buying, among other things, the right to a discount. Is that correct? I wasn't sure I was understanding what we were paying for here. As I was reading through the bid, it mentioned that we were paying for help with branding, putting a website together, and then the right to a discount offered by the vendor.
So there are several apparel vendors out there that, every sports team, club, so on, has different uniform or apparel desires. The point of the bid is to say, well, rather than purchasing everything in one or two items at a time and then paying full price, what will you give us if we do a group bid pricing for all of these items through a single vendor? What kind of discounts will you give us on that type of an arrangement where we will push all of those purchases to one place so that we can get some volume discounts and other type of advantages like that? So my understanding is that this is an expenditure of funds. It's just going to come with other benefits along the way. Some of these companies will offer, for example, scholarships that they'll provide to the school, and all of that is taken into account and tabulated, scored, and determined which vendor they would like to then say, okay, we'll commit then to use you for these next 3 years.
Has there been any analysis made at any time to determine whether the cost of this relationship is worth it?
Every time this goes to a bid for a high school, they are looking at, well, is this going to save us money over these 3 years rather than trying to do everything piecemeal? And so, yes, it is every time that's done. That's part of it.
And it's always come out that we're saving money entering into this kind of a deal.
Yeah. And it is, to my knowledge, the thing that has not been accounted for in these bids is actually the time saved of the school. The principal, the office staff, the teachers, the advisors, the coach. Because there's another cost, if you will, if you do it piecemeal, a little bit at a time, every time. Then someone every year, oh, okay, I got to go find what kind of jerseys I'm going to get this year. And but that cost component has not been added into this. I'll just add that as another savings, if you will, of trying to group things together. The school, one benefit was mentioned by the superintendent, I believe. I've already forgotten, sorry. There's other benefits provided to the schools as far as advertising for events, sporting events and other things. They will help the school through those type of procedures and marketing.
Okay, thanks.
And is it correct to say that the cost savings on apparel is actually for the parents who are, because
yeah,
we're paying through our fees for extracurricular activities for this apparel, correct?
I think that's very fair to say, yes.
And this is kind of at the board's request. Years ago, we saw expenditures coming all over the place, and we said, can't we simplify this? Can't we unify this and buy uniforms one at a time? And I like to see these things happening.
These apparel companies would love, well, I don't want to paint them negatively, but of course any vendor would prefer if we just did business solely with them without a bid. Well, if you do these little piecemeal things, then they all come in under thresholds of bidding. And so you get more competition and you get more openness and transparency as well by grouping this together and saying, look, everyone's welcome to bid. Tell us your best deal. Tell us what kind of product you have, rather than a coach calling up somebody that they know and saying, hey, I need jerseys this year. Can you help me out?
Is there further discussion? All right. All in favor of the bid to approve the West Jordan High School uniform and apparel discount incentive, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously. Can I get a motion on the career and technical education computer labs?
I make the motion to approve the bid for career and technical education computer labs at 3 high schools and 4 middle schools.
Second.
I second.
A motion by Ms. Richards, second by Ms. Dean to approve the computer labs at 3 high schools and 4 middle schools. Is there discussion to that motion? I just have one question. Tell me what engineering labs are. And is that separate from is that specific to engineering classes, or is that something more like a computer lab?
Drafting?
I'll venture a guess here, but CTE has a very broad range of career fields that they try to provide classes in. And I'm assuming there's engineering classes that have specific technology in those classes that they need to teach that curriculum.
Yes, when you walk in those classrooms, the computers are different, and they have greater capacity, and so yeah, it's around those engineering programs specifically.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the bid to approve the CTE computer labs, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. That bid passes unanimously. Can I get a bid for custodial services waste collection?
I can make the motion to approve custodial services waste collection for $2.3 million for 5 years.
I second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Ms. Dean to approve the bid for custodial services waste collection. Is there discussion to that motion?
Just put it out there again. What a great opportunity to consider recycling in our schools. Reduce the size of the bins needed and teach our children some good citizenship.
Actually went to a couple schools and worked with custodial services, and there's a tremendous amount of garbage and waste that we have going out of our schools each day, which is understandable. We have a lot of people in our schools, but
Does this bid represent an increase over what we've been paying up until now? And if so, how much?
Do you want to come forward? Thank you. And just state your name.
Steve Peart, the Director of Custodial and Energy Services. So, do you mind repeating what the question or concerns were?
Yeah, I was wondering if this bid that we received represents an increase over what we're currently paying for waste services, and if so, how much?
It is a slight increase over what we were currently, but it's was just within a few $1,000s of what we're currently. I think last year was like $430,000 to $40,000 is what we paid for waste collection. So, and it's probably around $450 now, somewhere in that neighborhood for those.
does this represent a change of companies that we're using?
It's still the same company. There was 2 companies that bid, and Republic is what we've had since the last contract, and they will continue. They were the lowest in every size of dumpster. They were the lowest bid.
And to speak of Miss George's comments about recycling, we have a recycling program, don't we? Because I visited some schools and they have a separate.
Yeah, the recycling program are school dependent. Each school will choose if they do a recycling program. The majority of the waste that we have is, I would say, cafeteria, and that's where the volume is from that and that. But recycling, each school can choose if they do. It's typically only paper or cardboard that they do.
Question for John. In our budget, we were discussing increases in utilities. That was a line item. I don't remember if those were estimates at the time.
They were. Yeah, they were estimates at the time. What I don't know is garbage included in that estimate?
Okay. Yeah, waste collection.
So I would have to really dig into that, but that was an overall estimate for the utility increases we've seen. Just like our home, at least my home has seen large utility increases in the past year. The district has similar utility increases.
Yeah, the reason for the question obviously is I'm hoping that we overestimated the increase, but maybe not if waste collection wasn't included in that number.
That number was estimated with the help of the accounting department, and so I would have to go back and ask them to help recreate and help me show whether garbage was included in that with that little difference there or not.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, all in favor of approving the bid for custodial services waste collection, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That bid passes unanimously. Can I get a bid for a motion, thank you, for West Jordan Elementary?
I move that we approve the bid for the building demolition of West Jordan Elementary School.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Dean, second by Ms. Richards to approve the bid for the demolition of West Jordan Elementary School. And yes, we have approved this in the past, but the previous bidder that we selected has pulled out, so this has come back to us. Is there a discussion to this motion?
I just wanted to check, is it still the same level of demolition? It's like getting it back to
Mr.
the base.
Rostrom.
Yeah, that is correct. The specs were the same.
So,
And-
Dave, help me understand this. MKP won the bid the first time, had a misunderstanding, pulled their bid, and re-won the bid for $200,000 more than their original bid.
That's correct. Yeah.
What was their misunderstanding that is now costing us $200,000?
When we put the specifications together, we anticipated the board to pick one of the alternates. There was 3 alternates when it was decided just to go with the base bid. One of the items that wasn't included in the base bid but were covered in all of the 3 other bids was filling the hole back up with fill material. And so that was the main increase. So the base bid didn't include filling in the hole, which is hundreds of loads of dirt. And so that's where the confusion was. We anticipated one of the alternates to be taken, which it was covered in any of the 3 alternates, but not in the base bid.
But my problem with that is their second bid is higher than the original bid with the first alternate. So if the problem was, well, we anticipated one of the alternates to be chosen, I guess it's close. I'm just really scratching my head how their misunderstanding is now costing $200,000, which was almost double what their original bid was.
Correct. The original was $293,879.
So we're paying $200,000 for the dirt to backfill the hole.
Correct, yeah. There was a couple other little items, but that was the main cost.
Does that seem right to you? 200,000 to fill a hole with dirt?
So I have a question.
That's reasonable.
With the amount of loads that's anticipated, you know.
When you say 200,000, are you referencing the $172,988.25? Is that you're rounding it up to 200,000?
No, I'm saying their first bid was $293,000.
Oh.
And their second bid is $498,000. That's a difference of $200,000, $205,000.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at the
current bid.
the one that we
The
voted
bid they
on?
won last time
Okay.
for $293,000.
Okay.
And now the current bid they won this time for $498,000.
Yeah, it's 204,766 is the difference.
Remind me how many bidders we had the first time.
There were 2 the first time.
Same 2?
No,
No.
there was a different one. But when you look at the other 2 bids that we come in, this is still substantially lower than the second bid we had on the first go around, and you can see this current one. And like I say, some of that was on our mistake that we didn't catch that in the specifications that covered that. But like I say, that was kind of a surprise to us because we thought there would be one of the alternates that would be part of that.
Can you speak to the difference between these 2 bids? Why one is significantly, maybe, I'm not going to say the amount, I don't know if I can, but it's significantly higher than the one we accepted?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just their workload. You know, if they're hungry or looking for work. I was really surprised that it come in that high because we have a kind of a basic range that we anticipate demolition to be at, price per square foot, and that's actually in between those 2 is what we anticipated.
Is what they are asking, is that within your anticipated range?
It's actually lower than I thought it would be.
We don't,
Kind of going off, excuse me.
we don't approve this bid, then it just goes back out to bid again.
Correct, yeah.
And the alternate bid this time, the second bid this time, is considerably higher.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, this is the best course of action. I'm just
Right.
scratching my head as to how it played out.
Me too.
We get a discount if we provide the fill because we have plenty across the street from Antelope Canyon.
We have a bunch in my backyard too.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on where they're currently getting it at. I mean, they're always looking for the closest because it's the expense of the trucking back and forth, really not the material as much. Right now, they're anticipating $400 per load is what that they'll take.
Well, let's get her done.
Excuse me, is there any other discussion? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve the bid for the building demolition of West Jordan Elementary School. All in favor of approving the bid, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We have no special business items tonight, so we will move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Godfrey.
Nothing to add, just that I appreciate the hard work that goes into preparing for the school year like I described. It goes beyond the staff that I mentioned. A lot of people are working hard to get things up and running, and I know teachers work hard over the summer as well. So I hope everyone's getting some downtime as we prepare for a great school year.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next item is a discussion item on our upcoming truth and taxation hearing. So that will be August 1st. It'll be at West Jordan High School, starting at 6:00 p.m. And I sent out an email to you that had a link to some materials for the website, and our ad hoc committee met. That was Ms. George, Mr. Barnett, and myself with Mr. Larson and Dr. Godfrey met and had a good lengthy discussion on what information does our community need and how can we get that to them. And so we came up with a pretty lengthy list and really appreciate Mr. Larson and Dr. Godfrey and the staff for jumping on that right away and getting to work on that. So I sent you all that information that we plan to post on the website. Do you have any feedback? Any questions about it? Is there information that's missing?
I thought it was great.
Okay, so are we ready to go live then with the website? Sounds like? Okay, we'll take that as a yes. So what that will be,
Hold on, does it include the property tax relief statute? I thought it did, but now I'm thinking I read that somewhere else. I'd like to include that for those who are going to struggle with, the concept of an increase, even though it's a net decrease. We ought to post that to say those of you who need relief with property tax support, here's a new statute. New statute.
I think that would be a good in our Q&A section.
Would it? Yeah, I think we could add that as a question. How do in fact, here's my thought about that is, how do I appeal my
Yeah, what are the
evaluation?
resources available to me?
And then the answer could be a link, because the county has a website for all of that stuff, and maybe the answer is just, you need to go to the county's website here, and we just provide that link for them. And then, how do I gain property tax relief? if I'm unable to pay, and then again, the county's website.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would love to see
the
that.
legislature has increased the thresholds for people that can get property tax relief.
That's what I was thinking.
For our seniors, yeah. And others on a fixed income. I think that would be a good Q&A.
Increase meaning it's easier, right?
Yeah, like increase the thresholds
Yeah.
of.
I really love how it looked. I think that if people go to our website, they are going to get the information they need. I now wonder how we can mobilize that to social media so that people who aren't going to take the initiative to seek it out on our website can still see some of this content.
That's a good.
Okay,
thing
going
to
back to the
discuss.
tax relief, the bill did not pass. I wonder if we could make a comment, say, please be aware that the Utah legislators considered a bill that would have done this and did not pass. Please contact your legislator if you would like to see this legislation pass.
Is that Fillmore's bill?
No, it was Briscoe's.
Briscoe.
There is still property tax relief that they can go to and get,
Yeah.
though. They were just gonna.
But I
boost
wonder,
it.
one more
Yeah.
item should be, hey, there was a proposal on the table. Let's stir up some support for it. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Because I remember that bill being, I remember that bill being proposed, thinking that would be a wonderful blessing if that passed. At the same time, there was a tax increase. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I would like the public to be aware that it was considered and it didn't pass.
I think it's appropriate to send people to the county's website to find out about tax relief. I think if we were going to encourage them to contact their legislators, we would need, as a board, to decide that that is something we support.
I'm okay in supporting it, but I think it needs to be a broader thing that legislators dictate how we are funded, and we're working within the parameters that we're given. And if you don't like those parameters, then we can't relieve you of that, but your lawmakers can.
And maybe that's too late to do anything now, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good suggestion for legislative priorities when we start talking this year, which will be soon, like maybe the next meeting.
So can I ask, are we doing anything with sending this to our legislators specifically, maybe with covered letter or cities or Utah Taxpayers Association? What are we doing in terms of winning over those other entities that work hand in hand with us?
Georgia brought that up too, and our group did not formally discuss that, but I would love to hear your suggestions. Do you think we should reach out to cities and send them information, reach out to legislators and send them information? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea to reach out to other elected representatives, and anyway, I just think it's a friendly kind of gesture, isn't it, to build bridges, maybe?
I think so too, and they'll also hear about it.
If we had a do-over, I think that we should have done that even before now. Does that make sense? Like, it's hard because we have to take a vote on it, and by then, they are voting on theirs at the same time, and so I just better communication maybe with, especially our cities, would be appropriate in the future. That's a hard thing because we don't know exactly if we're going to vote for or against it, and they're voting almost on the same nights. So,
What exactly are we suggesting that we communicate with cities?
the feedback I've gotten is they're going for tax increases, and we're surprised that we were going, and us asking for an increase, although ours technically could be considered a decrease. does affect them. And so I'm very concerned with our communication with our cities and our legislators.
I think it's a point well taken. And in fairness, we didn't know we were doing this until pretty recently. And so I don't know that this is exemplary of a typical process. But I still think it wouldn't hurt to reach out. I think communication is always a good idea, and it's easy enough to draft an email.
And what kind of information would we share in the email? I'm still a little confused.
If I were gonna send something, it would just be an FYI. Here's what we're doing. Here's the link to our website.
That would just be sent to city council members and the mayors. Is that what we're thinking? And legislators? Sorry to belabor this. How would that help them? Why would they want to hear that from us? What would they do with that information?
Well, I'm thinking that they would at least know, what we're doing and at least have that knowledge base in case they're asked. That would be my idea.
A couple of them have approached me and said that they were disappointed that we were doing it, and they probably don't understand why. I just always think more communication's better than not enough. They tend to get school questions, just like we get city questions. So the more that we can connect with them is great, and working hand in hand and having them be partners, I think, is always good for us.
My only thought on why it would be helpful for cities is if they're doing a tax increase and they have a constituent that says, well, I can't afford it, Jordan District's raising theirs, you're raising yours, that they can say, but your taxes for Jordan School District are actually going down this year, not up.
And so, Mr. Barnett, one thing that I think about too is I prefer less or fewer silos for information. I think that when elected officials are, I don't know, transparent, whatever, with each other, then there's more trust and more willingness to work together and collaborate. So I feel like when we can share information and have a better understanding of other elected officials or, their organizations, I just think that we can work together for better outcomes sometimes. So.
Training we went to in beginning of January, I remember there were a couple legislators in one of the sessions I went to, and they were kindly complaining about the amount of email they receive, and they just can't get to it all. It's like, well, thanks for sending this, but I didn't read it, or I can't get to it, or so. I think communication is great if it has a purpose, and this is the purpose that we're doing it for, and but just communication to communicate. I don't know.
One of the historical things that you might not know is there was a time when we had such a distant relationship with cities that we actually had to sign an agreement that we'd communicate. And that has since expired, but I always kind of think that why did we have to sign an agreement, an interlocal agreement that we would communicate? Couldn't we have done a better job in the front end of that? And there's a lot of details to that, but I always think it's just better to, give them more. I personally feel that I'm not doing as much with the cities as I used to. I think COVID took me off my game, and I need to get to more meetings and communicate a little bit better, and I'm going to try to do that.
Dr. Anderson, you're in contact with our legislators regularly. Do you have any thoughts on if we communicate that, the best way to do it?
I think timing is a lot of it. I think at this point, I'm not sure it would be super helpful. I think they've got their property tax notices out there. I think there's a balance to be struck there without making it look like we're just letting them know versus wanting to collaborate on things. I think timing is a lot of it, personally. I do think there's a lot of, at this point, once the property tax notices are mailed out, I think our information on our website is very helpful, so they can understand if they want to know why we're doing it and where it's going and how it's broken down, and that there really is an overall decrease. I think that's super helpful. I know Harriman has made a concerted effort to do that with their increase, which looks, pretty large on the tax notice, but they've put a good information campaign out there about it.
Okay, so what's the consensus? Cities, legislators, both?
It might be, like Dr. Anderson said, too late, or I don't know. I feel fine either way.
Either way.
So.
Okay. Mr. Dunford, do you have a preference?
I would prefer to send it.
Okay. Ms. Richards?
Yes, I'd like to
Send it. Ms. George?
Send it. I don't think it hurts.
Okay. Mr.
Send
Robinson?
it.
Mr. Barnett? Either way, or sending it?
I'm good sending it.
Okay. I think I would lean that way too. Is it okay if we ask Dr. Anderson and Dr. Godfrey to craft something or figure out, and also working with Tammy Pfeiffer to figure out kind of the best way, most effective way to communicate that and lead them to our website with information?
Yes, we'll put something together and send that to you before we send it to them.
Thank you. The other question that Ms. George brought up was social media. How do we want to push out information on social media about this? Thoughts?
You mean the school district's profile on social media through that?
So on the main Jordan School District page, if you go there, the top story, the picture on top is going to be truth and taxation. And if you click on it, it'll take you to the web page with the truth and taxation information. So that will be on the Jordan School District webpage for the next couple of weeks, as it'll remain the head story there. But so the question is, do you want to push it out on Facebook, Instagram? Yes, for Mr. Robinson.
Social media is mainly targeting the parents, right, as opposed to government people. Yeah, I'd be more in favor of letting them know. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I feel like there was a lot of conversation about our responsibility to taxpayers, and this is an avenue that a lot of people gain information, and this is a way for us to help with that education piece that some board members have felt like they could hang a vote on.
And I guess the other question on social media too is, do you just want something general that refers back to the website, or do you want different pieces going out every other day or something along that line? Whatever communications department feels is appropriate. Like, do you want different pieces going out, or do you just kind of want one main message going out?
I would lean towards just maybe answering one of the FAQs and then giving a link to learn more.
So I wish we did it in pieces over a long period of time. If someone's listening and didn't listen to our budget hearing, which was our last meeting, we only made this decision in our last meeting. So we haven't had lots of communication and lots of available communication. Like, had we had earlier meeting, we would have already had this done. But we didn't know up until our last meeting whether or not we're going out. So at this point, at least just the general one, maybe 2, but I don't think we need to. I would do it differently if we had more time.
Okay, so majority are saying yes on social media. The rest of you?
I hate to burst your bubble, but there are a lot of seniors who do not do social media. How are we going to connect with them? Or are we?
Is there a postcard that goes out? I remember, like, it seems like I have gotten a postcard before about truth in taxation.
It's on their
And
tax
also-
notices. So yes, everyone will have gotten it. Does the tax notice say anything about a website and where to get information?
I have mine right here. There is a lot of information on the flip side about tax relief programs, how my property tax is collected, and there is a website regarding tax relief that they can go to there. So there is some information.
Not Jordan District's.
Not specifically for Jordan School District, the only information provided there is the date and time and location.
If they get it online, they'll have a direct link to Jordan District's
That's
website.
what I was just gonna say too. I feel like my 82-year-old mother-in-law uses social media. I think it's more accepted than we realize, and it's hard to incur additional expenses when we're already really going out on a limb this year.
Too late in the game. There is some that don't use it. My mom doesn't, but I think if they wanted to know more, they could reach out to someone that they know. It'd be nice to have a newsletter that we have already been, or some kind of process that we already have been communicating with them. So this is just one more piece of the puzzle that we use. I think then it would be more genuine too.
Okay, so Dr. Godfrey, we would like some social media posts regarding this, and the communication department or pros.
We will take care of that. We'll take care of it. Thank you.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to add for the truth and taxation hearing is, do we want to start the meeting with pledge and reverence like we start our normal business meetings?
Yes,
I'd say yes to that. Both pledge and reverence?
that was a glaring omission last time.
Uh-huh, yeah. So, Mr. Larson, can you make sure we've got that?
What's the plan for that night? Is there going to be a presentation, handouts, posters in the lobby?
Good question. We had a really long meeting and didn't get to everything. So let's discuss that right here. Okay, I guess question number 1 is, do you want, our hearing's gonna start at 6. Do you want some sort of open house before the hearing to interact? Or do you want to just start at 6? And then do you want a presentation? And do you want a handout? So those are the 3 questions that we have for board members. Let's start with the first one. Does anyone want an open house before it begins?
Do you think there would be participation? It seems like people might want to save their comments for the actual hearing. I don't know.
We haven't ever done it before, so
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
I wouldn't mind it. I think it's sometimes easier to answer their questions at that point. Then, we can't make statements as much. Or maybe we can, I don't know. I've heard back and forth that we can make statements back, but I've also heard that we can't, so maybe that needs to be clarified too. But it's easier in an open house than a hearing.
Okay, anyone else interested in an open house?
I'm not.
No. Ms. Richards, Ms. Dean, Mr. Dunford. Okay. So we'll start at 6 o'clock. You want a presentation? I believe Mr. Larson did one last time around.
No, the board did.
Or, oh, you're right.
Each one took a few minutes. We divvied it up and everyone had a piece of the presentation.
And what are your recommendations? Would you like to do that again?
I'd like a presentation, but maybe not divvy it up among 7 different speakers.
I think just a summary by one person,
Mhm.
probably the board president.
The time before, the board president made a video that was shown in the lobby on a loop and then in the meeting before the meeting began. It was just, let's watch this video. The board president spelled out exactly why we're doing this and all the details, and then we just went right into the hearing.
Yeah, and that was a good.
So it was a video playing. Gosh, my memory is so bad. In the lobby. Okay.
Yeah.
It just was on a loop, so as you came in, you could sit and watch the video play and then come into the auditorium.
When in the hall, did people actually stop and watch?
We actually discussed that a little at our ad hoc meeting, and the way that we're having sign up, we kind of felt like they're not waiting in line to get up there. It's pretty in and out. And so I don't know how much they would see. So for that reason, I would lean more towards maybe just a short introduction to why we're there at the beginning, and then it just segues right into, you know, explaining what the hearing is and what the rules are, and I think that's perfect.
Okay. And you all comfortable if I do that presentation?
I think a fact sheet at the door would be helpful.
Okay. I like that. Okay. Okay.
It might be helpful either to go old school and give a handout of the web page that we have, or a QR code that they can scan to go to that. So in those time that they're waiting, they can actually have those facts in front of them, which they probably had seen before, but they might not have. So we might have enough white paper to do that.
All right, our ad hoc committee will have another meeting to work on the fact sheet. So please give us your input. Is my ad hoc committee resigning
I'll send you a,
on me
I'll send
after
you
that
the
statement?
I'll send you the last video that was made.
Okay, thank you.
We did come up with a list of kind of an FAQ. Maybe portions of those questions can be included in the.
That's what I'm thinking
in
too.
the-
Let's just go over everything we did and pull off what we want on the fact sheet. And what we want in the presentation out of all the information that we put together so far. Okay. Okay, anything else for that night?
Did talk about whether we wanted a meal or not, and decided just to have water.
I vaguely remember hearing people say, "And you're up there eating," in the last.
There will be no meal that night.
Yeah. So just as a board, we should understand if you need a candy bar or something, bring one.
Bring your own.
I think it kind of depends upon how long this meeting goes as well. I mean, if we're there quite a while,
Bring what you need to be
guess you better bring a granola bar, I guess. I
Right.
don't know.
That's right. Okay. Thank you for your feedback on that. We'll now go to committee reports and comments by board members. Do we have any committee reports? Okay, Ms. Richards.
From facilities, we met on the 10th. And just FYI, we'll have the summer project list for our next meeting on August 8th. And that's when we will do our little whiteboard
And
activity.
Finance committee is ready with their recommendation that day also? August 8th?
We will be.
Okay. And then on board docs, the ongoing building plan is there, and we talked about this at length in our meeting. The only section that we really dealt with was the blue section there, and I know a lot of you were kind of apprehensive last time about specifics and that kind of thing. Scott Feston was in our meeting and was able to tell us, you know, how the hot spots are panning out, that kind of thing. But we put it in chronological order as much as we could. I think that could be helpful. And then we talked about, you know, we had it pinned down to kind of a school year. And we thought as a committee that maybe we should have it be a window. And that's why the preposition to is between the 2 years, because that might fluctuate according to how the building is going in certain areas. And I just wanted your input on that before we finalize it.
Can I
Also, we did talk, I think, last time about waiting until after our seismic study completion before we really did anything definitive. So.
And yes, that is something as a board in the spring that we had decided that we would wait for staff to come back to us in the fall when we have updated projections, seismic reports, and bring us, you know, comprehensive recommendations on our building plan. Yeah.
Yeah, nevertheless, I think, as you can see, our next schools will have to be an elementary school in one of those two areas.
Yeah, this is helpful to see what the facilities committee's been looking at. Thank you.
Can I seek clarification on something? Because I just quickly, there was a question about the finance committee in August 8th. What was that for the capital projects dollar amount?
The summer project's proposed budget.
Usually we've tried to do that after August 15th because we've tried to close out the year.
That's true.
So
Is it, Mr. Thomas, is it the second meeting? I was thinking it was the first meeting, but okay, it is the second meeting, forgive me. Yeah.
Okay.
The second meeting in August, so.
Okay.
Right. I was thinking that, you're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports?
I have one. So there was a new regional park ribbon cutting in South Jordan, the Bingham Creek Regional Park. It's beautiful. Phase 1 is now open, and it is just lovely. And then also there's a ribbon cutting for Pioneer Crossing Regional Park. I know it's not in our district, but it's in West Valley, and that ribbon cutting is on Thursday. Address is 1276 West Cultural Center Drive in West Valley City, and it's at 9 a.m. if anybody's interested.
I was just going to mention, I think in one of the prior meetings I mentioned that Salt Lake Academy High School has a new director, Sam Gibbs. He's now on staff July 1st and working with the transition right now. And I'll introduce him to you and your staff, however you want to do that. We'll talk offline. But I was wondering if it would be appropriate to introduce him to the board, and can I bring him to a future board meeting?
I would suggest that. I think everybody needs to meet him.
He's fantastic, and I'm really excited for the future, and to be able to work with him as a district, I think is going to be valuable. So we'll set that up.
Thank you. So I have a report from the Portrait of a Graduate Strategic Plan Project Team. Had our first meeting with education elements this week, or last week actually. And I did send you all a meeting. Our next step is to select the steering team, and the steering team will actually be a decision-making body that will help move things forward. There are 4 different teams, so multiple opportunities for people to give input, and you know, we really want a broad representation and input from lots of people in our district. Educational Elements will, in fact, we'll even be doing a survey that will go to everyone in our district, so that we will get a lot of good feedback. So thank you to those of you that recommended some names for that. We will look at those specific names in closed session under character and competence. If you have concerns with any of those names, you can tell us in closed session.
I want to make sure that we reach out to business leaders and say, what are our graduates not skilled in doing that is interfering with their ability to succeed in business? And I didn't really see that, and I'm sure it's there, but would you make sure as you report back and forth that that's an element?
Thank you, and we did add that. So on the steering committee, when we decided, you know, what we need parents, teachers, ESP, you know, principals, admin, a business community. So yes, we did add that. So thank you.
On that topic, I was working aside Burgess Owens, and he brought that up, that he wanted to talk about businesses and skills that we should have. So he would be another good person to bring in on that communication, because he's been thinking about it and working with that. So it'd be nice to have his perspective.
And I think there will be a part down the road in which, you know, there will be focus groups and different groups, I think, where we'll reach out to elected officials.
So I have a question. I'm looking at the potential steering committee members. What does the buff color mean versus the yellow? Is that alternate? Okay. At the...
It's not there.
My key isn't there.
Buff was alternate. This meeting was just this morning, so it was a really quick add to board docs. Okay, so one of the questions that Mr. Barnett brought up is, how will the whole entire board be involved in this process? And that is something that we did talk about. And I think there will be opportunities for the whole board to give input, both in teams along the way, and then there will also be agenda items I'm anticipating on a regular basis that will come back to the board. But Education Elements also said we can provide updates as often as you want. We can, you know, Zoom into meetings, or we can provide written updates. So I'm open to direction from the board as to how often do you want an update. I'm thinking at least monthly.
That's what I was thinking. At a minimum. Yeah. What's the status? You know, what major decisions were made? You know, those types of things.
I don't think that we necessarily need Education Elements that often, but I would love to hear from them in board meeting frequently as well, but probably not monthly.
Yeah.
I think it's important enough to have it on every agenda until we approve it, but if we haven't collected a lot more information, then we can drop that off. But at least a goal, like if progress is being made, let's update us.
And we can have a committee report every time. Yeah. And even say nothing to report.
Yeah, so like either a committee report or formally on the agenda every time until we approve it would be really cool.
Well, keep communication open anytime you have questions. If we're reporting too much, if we're not reporting enough, let's make sure we're all feel like we're part of the process on this. Do you have anything else to add, Dr. Godfrey?
No, just that there will be, beyond this opportunity, many opportunities to participate, whether on another committee or in focus groups. And I just also say that I've been really impressed with my interactions with the team that we've hired.
Okay, are there any other committee reports? Okay, thank you. We are to the end of our business meeting. We will take a 10-minute break and then meet in the study session room to finish our study session items. Okay, we are live streaming. It is September 18th, 2023 still. We're at the JTC and we are
Still?
continuing. We're continuing our study session.
You started at 1.
Should we do boundary change first? Is that going to be quick? I know there's people for both.
They've been here longer than we have.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Does it not matter?
I think it'll be faster to finish.
Okay, let's finish wit and wisdom then. So we were on the study session item for, I'm just getting feedback from the open house on the new curriculum. And Mr. Barnett had brought up, why don't we have our own curriculum development department? Are there other board members that are interested in exploring that?
I am very not. I work for an organization that for many years had the misunderstanding that if you're a good teacher, then you're good at all these other things associated with education and our program, and that is not the case. So we would pull from our teachers' rank, oh, you're a teacher that knows computers? Why don't you write our computer software? And it was the worst software we ever had. And until finally we said, you know what, let's hire a computer guy to do computer things, that we really changed and we moved the needle. And I feel very strongly that the skill set of teaching is not the same skill set as curriculum development. Those are two very different skill sets. And I do not want to be an organization that is excellent at curriculum development. I want to be an organization that is excellent at teaching. I would much rather pay someone else to develop the curriculum, and then we become excellent at teaching. I don't think the culture of Utah has a monopoly on the science of reading and how children learn how to read. I recognize that choosing the books is a different issue, but this curriculum is so much more than which books do we choose. And so I feel very strongly that I do not want Jordan School District to become a curriculum generating machine. And what that would cost and what it would take away from what I do want Jordan School District to be, and that is an excellent teaching organization, where we pull in the very best curriculum that's out there, and then we masterfully teach it. That's where I stand.
In the example you gave, you mentioned that you'd rather hire someone else who's expert in that rather than using teachers, for example. What if rather than use teachers, we hired people as part of Jordan School District that were curriculum experts, and that's all they did?
Then I would take that money and pay the teachers more. I do not want to be a curriculum generating organization.
Yeah, but that money is money that we're paying someone else already.
No, what we're paying is a drop in the bucket to what we would have to pay to generate what they're producing.
Yeah, and that's what I want to explore. Is that statement true?
I can tell you in my organization it is.
I'll add a little to that, and that is, I feel like the science of reading it's not new, but it has been poorly represented for a very long time. And I feel passionate that I want statistically significant data to show me that this is effective research-based reading, and I do not think that our district is a big enough sample size. Yep. I appreciate that we have math teachers who have great data for a very small sample size, but I am not going to gamble the education of our children on such a small sample size.
What if we determined that we were spending $20 million a year on curriculum? I asked John, he doesn't know what that figure is, and he might not be able to come up with it very easily. But let's just assume we find out we're spending $20 million, sending it outside of Utah for the most part. Do we think that we could hire a team of, 20 people, 30 people, whatever it would take, for $20 million a year?
But I think it's not just about hiring the people, it's also buying all of the materials. You know what I mean?
Some of
Like
it is,
buying
yeah.
all of the books, which is probably a much smaller piece of it, but
And the other thing is, you got 100 districts paying $20 million a year. And that's what you're replicating. What 100 districts are paying. And there's no way we could buy that level of expertise in curriculum development.
I think my concern would be just that we already have a shortage of good teachers, and the people that write the curriculum, they are former teachers by and large, hired by these companies. They have degrees in education, they have expertise in education. And I don't know that we have that many spares in our district to form a whole department, and that we'd be taking a lot of good teachers out of classrooms. Anyone else thoughts on it?
It's just
For it?
to me, it's too risky on this curriculum. If we want to try it on a different topic, I would be willing to explore it, but this is the most important piece that we're going to be putting in, so.
When it sounds like we do it on small scale.
Yeah, we already do it on a pretty small scale.
Okay, does anyone else want to explore the option of creating our own curriculum department? Okay. Mr. Robinson brought up creating a policy on how we choose curriculum in our district. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thoughts on having a board policy on that?
Do we not have anything along those lines right now about how we select curriculum
We do
or
have,
how we adopt? Yeah.
we have just a small, I think it's under like DE
And Ms. Goff, you're
501.
welcome, Ms. Lovell, to come to the table and
But it's
chime
not,
in if you
it's
have.
not like the other districts are putting
What
together.
number did you say that was?
DE 501.
So it would be a revision of DE 501?
Could be. It also could be included in like the philosophy of instruction, I think. We'd have to find the right place, and certainly we want to look and see what we have, but the detail that I saw other districts have, we don't have.
when you say other districts, how many other districts are you talking
Well, I haven't
about?
looked at all of them, but I'll tell you the best one is the Canyon School District, and they just adopted it 1st of June, and they even specifically say like when, like they have to have, it has to come to them in November, and if it doesn't come in November, it's got to wait till the next year. So, but I would want things written in like I think all curriculum should go through the parent organization, through LEAC, maybe the PTA, you know. So we would have to, as a board, decide if we want that guiding document so that we can make these decisions, and then where it fits best, and then what it needs to say. So it'd take a little time to figure all that out.
Carolyn.
But part of that, I would look at other districts.
The two curriculum I've been involved in 6-7 months, or the math and now this one, would it doesn't seem like either one of those would fit into bring it to us in November, or you have to wait till the next November. It seems like both this one and the math one were kind of rushed. Is that accurate, or am I not under the process?
They're not necessarily rushed to the point where, you know, we did know and we could see some things, but we had a different curriculum than some other districts do. So when they may be just renewing their contract for a particular curriculum, we recognize the fact that, like in the math case, our curriculum, that was a renewal of a curriculum. So it was, we could probably we can tell right now when the next elementary math renewal will be, because we know the length of that contract. So, you know, we could be able to have kind of a calendar, if you will. In fact, it's one of the expectations of, since, you know, as we've been talking as a curriculum department, we know when the State Office of Education tentatively renews their standards, the core standards. And once you have that document in place, our hope is to be able then to put a similar district document into place that says, knowing what the state is doing with the renewal of core standards, this would be an approximate timeline for when our contracts need to also be renewed or looked at for these various curricular expectations. And so, to Mr. Robinson's point, we would then be able to have, and we've actually looked at a lot of those other districts' policies and the way that they're set up, to see if that is something that we would be able to calendar to the best of our ability based on the state's changing standards and based on our understanding of contracts. It's a big project, and we're very anxious to undertake it, but it'll take probably a good 6 months or longer for us to harness all of that information and put it together. And so if the board is interested in something like that, you know, we could potentially say, yeah, we were going to do it anyway, you know, as far as a timeline. That was something that our department was already talking about. So looking at other districts and the way that they have worded that and put that together, that's definitely doable. And so it was actually already on the table for something we were going to do. The literacy piece, sometimes things happen that expedite that or move it in terms of priority with the onset of new kindergarten classes and needing new curricula, and then having Journey suddenly decide that there's not going to be anything else we can buy. And it's something that we needed to do more quickly than maybe we had time to, you know, according to our map, if you will. But most things we could potentially predict based on contract and based on state standards. So it would be feasible.
Something that I'm sorry, this is a little off topic, but something that I'm hearing from a lot of teachers who are kindergarten through third is, do we all have to have the same curriculum? Could you make this an upper grade curriculum and give us something that's a little less rigorous? They're just really nervous about that implementation. Is that even a possibility? Or is this an all or nothing?
I think that it would be very difficult to find a curriculum that is specific to lower grade and then one that's specific to upper grade. I think having the commonality of where kindergarten ends here, we pass the baton to first grade ends here, we pass the baton to second grade, and so forth. In some conversations that I've had personally with that idea, is it seems that people are the teachers I've talked to have felt more that lower grades are for phonics and lower grades are for phonemic awareness and lower grades are for learning to read, and they certainly are. That is where the bulk of that is, but lower grades are also for gaining knowledge, and lower grades are also for background knowledge, and they're also for learning about books, and the books might be read to them more, but they're also a time for a rigorous writing program. If we don't start when the kids are young, teaching them how to write, it's pretty hard to jump into it in third grade and close the gap that should have been happening all the way from kindergarten. So in my opinion, I don't think that would be a wise choice. I think it would be better to have a curriculum that builds and to have a curriculum that's strong in vocabulary. Even in kindergarten, we need our kids to be able to hear and use rich vocabulary. So we need both in those lower grades, that strong phonics and then also the strong writing and strong knowledge base and curriculum for comprehension and vocabulary.
Policy. Interested in the policy? Or did you have a different comment?
Can ask the question with kindergartners. What about those who choose not, the parents choose not to send their kids to kindergarten? There's going to be a hole. Mm-hmm. So how do we make that up?
You know, I think as a former kindergarten teacher, I taught kindergarten for many years, and I feel that early childhood education is really critical. Really, 3-year-old preschool is one of the most common, or one of the most, the strongest predictors whether a child will graduate from college, is whether they attended 3-year-old preschool and if it was quality. And so I am a firm believer in early childhood education, and their brains are pliable, they learn quickly. That's a perfect time to learn language. It's a perfect time to learn all of these things. And so I would encourage all parents to send their children to kindergarten if possible. When that doesn't happen and they start in 1st grade, then we do everything we can to close the gap. So that might mean intervention. It might mean, that's our Walk to Read program. We'll do everything we can to catch those kids up to where they need to be.
If we can increase the numbers of full-day kindergarten programs, then more parents will want to.
Might happen, who knows, huh?
At whatever age students enter school, there is going to be variation in their level of preparedness. And through this new program, our teachers are well equipped to address those issues.
Okay, back to the policy question that Mr. Robinson brought up. I personally would be in favor of either adding to D501 or adding a new one. And the reason being is mostly because we have new legislation now that just became effective this year that as a board, we need to vote on district-wide curriculum, and we need to take public comment at 2 different meetings. So I think that warrants putting into policy for us. I think some reasonable timelines for that would be helpful, both for the curriculum department and for us to kind of know what to expect. Here's some things that need to happen between the first time you bring it to the board and a vote on the board would be helpful. I also really like that this RFP process was more robust than a normal RFP process, that more people are added to that, and that makes a lot of sense for district-wide curriculum adoption. And I'd be open to having something like that in the policy too, that, that's something that we would like to see if we're going to adopt curriculum district-wide. I think that was a really good move. So those are my thoughts on,
And
do we
if we
want
do
policy changes?
add to the policy or whatever, how are you going to get around the fact that this had to be expedited because of journeys?
You put something in policy for exception process and how that's handled.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
Good question.
My problem on this, though, is we're not even making it mandatory for everybody, and so I'm a little apprehensive on a rapid approval process. It's just so, this is a big decision.
Okay, policy question. Then we'll go back to other concerns. Is anyone else interested in changes to the policy?
I have,
Okay, when?
I'm interested.
I don't
in
want to
it.
write it, but I'd be happy to entertain it in a board meeting.
Who all is supportive of asking our curriculum department to bring back their recommended changes to our policy?
Teaching and learning department.
Or the teaching and learning department. Sorry, I said it incorrectly.
They don't have much to do.
I would. I think, who knows?
No, that would be
A topic off this for a second is many boards have a board policy committee, and I think it would speed up our analyzing every word, if we were to develop something like that. But
okay. Changes to the policy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Potential changes.
Potential.
Yeah,
Thank
potential.
you. Okay. All right.
I don't want them to feel obligated to change it unless they see a need.
Okay. And do we just ask Dr. Godfrey to do that, or do we want board members to be part of that process?
I think I want to be a part of that process, but I'm okay with someone bringing it to us and then joining the conversation with something.
Bringing it to the full board.
Do you want to be a part of the process outside of board meeting?
A lot of faith in your crew over there.
So do I.
Okay. Is anyone else give it to Dr. Godfrey, or Give
Did
it
you want to
to
be
an
involved,
ad hoc
Daryl,
committee.
more closely? Or
no, but it's our policy. We should own it. I don't care if they join in with us, but we need to be in the creation of it.
I agree, but I think the
I wanna say
creation
that 'cause
can come through
It can.
a draft being
it can. It's our policy.
So I guess my hinging question here is, do we need to wait for that new policy to be in place before we can answer the wit and wisdom question? Do we have options that we could get around it? Like, could we pilot this program at a predetermined number of schools and use the existing Journeys curriculum we have from those schools to supplement our new full-day kindergarten and get by? Or do we need to make a, yes, this is an approved policy decision?
I'll just comment on the fact that as far as, I think that was the whole purpose of the slow rollout, was to act as if it was a pilot, recognizing that schools will come on at various times. And so that's why we were taking added measures to lengthen that rollout process. I think the concern that I would have about calling anything a pilot is that there's an option to say, never mind, after we've potentially looked at it for a period of time. And that's, as to the point that we made earlier, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of, it's one of the reasons that we didn't put every single book through the literature selection committee process first, because that's a huge lift in and of itself. And if we're going to move forward, we'd like to be able to move forward confidently, saying this is now part of what we're going to do. So it's not impossible to do that. At the same time, it would be nice, I think, to just slow the process and continue forward in a slow rollout.
And that's what I'm hearing is, let's slow this down. But if I have to face my constituents and say, yes, it's approved, this is our reading curriculum, I just need to know that so that I'm prepared for that conversation.
So I just want to say there's no one in this room who is more worrisome than I am. I worry about everything. It is my hobby. It is what I do. It keeps me up at night. And these pieces are things that, honestly, I never thought in my entire lifetime I would be even asked to be a part of, much less to be saying, let's put together a committee. And so I want you to know, number one, there is no perfect curriculum. If we adopted other curriculums, we would have to make modifications. If we adopted Wonders, we would say we cannot use the phonics, we cannot use the phonemic awareness because what we're already doing is working how we want it to. So please don't use any of those parts, and we would have to make adjustments to that curriculum. If we use CKLA, it would be the same thing. We would have to say, please don't use those parts. If we take Wit and Wisdom, we may have to look at some books and say to teachers, you're going to use this as a read aloud, and we're going to ask you to not use these paragraphs. So the thing that brings me peace and comfort about this whole process, because if it was just me, I would be saying there is no way I am sitting in this seat and suggesting anything to a district this size. But the thing that brings me comfort is that we had 17 experts on a panel, and 17 experts, all without looking at each other's papers, agreed on this particular. Then we had an open house where we had 150 teachers who walked through, and I was able to ask teachers. I didn't try to persuade. I just said, "What are your thoughts? Tell me what you think." And over again, I heard, "I really like this." The concerns that I heard most from teachers were, and from a couple of parents, this is a higher level of rigor than what we're used to. And I hope the kids can make it jumping from this level of instruction to this level of instruction within the year. And we're going to have to do a lot of scaffolding, a lot of supporting kids. But I didn't hear anybody say, this is terrible. And so if it was just my idea, I would be out the door right now. But if there are 150 really good teachers who care enough to come and take a look, and they're saying, I feel really good about this, I'm excited to use this. If there is a panel of 17 experts who are saying, I'm feeling really good about this, if there's a charter school who's actually using it, who said, this is great, you know, those are the pieces that let me get 3 hours of sleep a night instead of no sleep a night. So just those are my thoughts. And I realize that it's not ideal to have to push something through quickly, but I also know that you know, when Hagerty came to be, I don't know if you heard that story, but I didn't even know about an RFP. And we just I said, you know what, let's hold one class in June, see if anybody even comes out for it. I thought we'd get maybe 20 teachers at the most. And the secretary called me and said, where do you want me to put the teachers who can't register for the class? And I said, what do you mean? We opened the JTC South. We have 4 sessions, and I was expecting 20 teachers in those 4 days. And she said, every seat's taken. Everything's full. We had 340 something kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers come out in the middle, or 2nd grade teachers come out in the middle of the summertime to get the training because they needed the curriculum. So I think that teachers are tired of trying to piece it together and trying to make it work. So I think some of them will be very happy to have something stronger to use.
Right. Who's in favor of slowing down and saying, let's just pilot this at a few schools first? Daryl? Maybe. No. No.
So you're all interested in
No.
spending the $6 million?
Yep. I'm just not interested in piloting.
My problem is I
Fair
just
answer.
can't make a decision without, I collect the information to make decisions. And there's big holes in this for me in that I can't take it to parent organization that we have created. I can't take it to LEAC. I can't take it to these things that help us make these decisions because of the timing of this. And I just can't support it. So my vote will be no, which hurts me because I really want to say yes, but I don't have enough information to say yes. So moving forward with this makes me a no, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns you want to bring up right now? Okay. Thank you.
I do have one comment. You know, we heard from a lot of people, how many tonight? I think we had maybe one negative and the
It's 12
rest-
to 2.
12 to 2, okay, 12 to 2, including the emails?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had 150 teachers who were very adamant about how well they liked it. Is that correct? I mean,
Correct.
That's a pretty good sampling. I've had some emails myself personally that have been very positive. I've also had some negative. But I think we're hearing a lot more positive comments about it than negative, and that to me is evidence. So
Can I comment just on that as well? For me, I'm sold on the science of reading approach, the strategy that they use to teach reading, all the bullet points that they hit in our checklist of requirements. And I think that is also based on the feedback that I've heard. That's what everybody loves about the program. I didn't hear too many people say, now there were some people that said they love the content. But most of the people who were in favor of it, from my perception, loved the process, the strategy, the procedure, the lesson manuals, that type. And I love all that stuff too. but I don't love the content. And it's kind of one of those things where how do you decide if you love one aspect of it, but you don't like another aspect of it? You know, I kind of think back a little bit on HB 215, where it was the voucher thing again, and we all hate it. I think, maybe not all of us, but most people in education didn't like that idea, and it failed multiple times in previous years. And finally they decided, well, let's put this sweetener in there. Let's give all the teachers a big raise as part of this bill. And they got it passed. For some reason, that changed people's minds. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about this curriculum. I don't like the content, aspects of the content, but I like another aspect of it. So yeah, I hesitate to say that the vast majority of people love the entire thing. They love part of it. Those 12 people.
When you say content, do you mean the books?
Yeah, some of the things that Heather was talking about and other people have talked about, questioning whether some of the topics that are discussed, some of the unit themes that are discussed are appropriate for young minds.
And so I don't know if this applies, but some teachers brought up that it also fits in with some of the social studies state core curriculum. And I know that my kids have learned about the Donner Party in elementary school in social studies. So it's not necessarily in their language arts class. And so is it appropriate for the social studies core curriculum, but inappropriate for the language arts curriculum? That's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Because some of these ideas are brought up in different parts of the curriculum, aren't they? I don't know. Am I wrong?
It might be helpful for us to see how the modules, if you will, the units align with other content for that grade level. You know, are we seeing Civil War taught, and that's why we're seeing that as a unit?
Like, is it already part of the required core? We have to teach it.
Yeah, so now we're cross-curricular and supporting, which I love, but I don't necessarily want to throw it out there if it's not already coming. Does that make sense? I tried to say that in an email and I did a poor job.
And I would say for me, I mean, the concerns coming to us are with a few specific books. And so, I mean, for me, I want to make sure we have a good, all of the books are going to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to approve all of them.
And I
And so
imagine,
just making sure we have a good process that involves parents for that is an important piece for me. And as a board, if you want to make a motion to approve this curriculum except for these 2 books, you have the prerogative to be able to do that.
and I would imagine that most of the books are already on the district's approved lists. I mean, because the list is huge. So the books that have already been approved for use in the district.
There are a fair number of them that have been approved, yes. Mm-hmm.
Before any teacher can have assigned reading in their class, they must all, according to our existing policy. So a
I've
teacher
been on
couldn't
the
assign
literature
these
approval
without that.
committee.
Well, this would be the district level. It's not like the school level, but you know, we have that approved list.
No,
so
for
if
the district. I was on the middle school.
Oh, okay.
This, like, for, should we move this to 7th grade, or should it only be for reading groups, or could it be for general use, and where we read the books and we talked about them? And so
Yeah,
I-
you're one of the parent
So-
members of
I've
that
been a
at one
parent
point in
member
time.
of
So
literature.
yeah, I'm just saying like these would all have to
Selection
fall under
committee.
that policy.
Yeah.
Even if they're not yet, they would be before they showed up in a classroom.
Even if they've already been approved, they'd have to be
No, if they're already
oh.
approved, I think we're okay. But
I just hate approving curriculum that hasn't been reviewed. It's just, there's something wrong with this whole process. I just.
We sent an email to every single parent in the
What
district.
do you mean when
invited
you
them to
say
go
that
back.
hasn't been reviewed?
We haven't had our review curriculum, our committee look at those. We haven't tested this anywhere. Like it just, we jam it through the summer. It just frustrates me. We're making such a big decision and we're missing steps for me. at
that's why
least.
we all just agreed to policy, right?
Yeah, but this is a significant purchase.
Okay, does anyone have any more questions or concerns? Okay, we can continue. If you have questions, contact Dr. Godfrey or Ms. Goff.
You can also contact Ms. Goff directly. Just copy me, or
Okay.
she'll loop back with me.
Another open house for the public on Thursday, and then we will discuss this again on August 8th.
And are we approving it on that day?
Well, voting on
Uh,
it.
We're voting it on.
Is everyone on the board okay if we go ahead and put that on the agenda for a vote on August 8th?
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that are, 3 that aren't so sure. Okay, I think it will be on the agenda on August 8th then. Okay, and you always have the right to table it at that point in time too, but we will have it on there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we would like to welcome Mr. Hamblin, Mr. Feston to the table, and Mr. Anderson, if you would like to discuss a potential boundary change.
Thank you. Yeah, we're here tonight after having discussions with the Facilities Committee. We're here to meet with the board and discuss the potential of having a boundary change that would impact the pocket busing area in West Jordan. It's currently the pocket busing area from Joel P. Jensen Middle School and West Jordan High School, and moved it to Sunset Ridge Middle School and Copper Hills Middle School for the 24-25 school year. I think a little historical context is helpful here. In 2018, 5 years ago, I know we talked about 4 years ago with Dr. Godfrey as a new superintendent. He was then associate superintendent overseeing the Mother of All Boundaries, which we referred to as MOAB, which were really set to address 3 things. One was to accommodate the opening of Mountain Ridge High School, Hidden Valley Middle School, and Ridgeview Elementary School. And not only that, we also had to address projected enrollments in hot spots. One of the hottest spots at the time was in the area projected west of U111 for growth. And that was approved in 2018 and then in effect for the 1920 school year. And we all know what happened in the spring of 2020. That significantly altered the landscape, literally and figuratively, of this area that we're discussing today. The anticipated growth in that pocket bus area has not come to fruition. Like it slowed significantly in the past 5 years, and the established areas within Sunset Ridge and within Copper Hills have slowed modestly, albeit with student counts declining in some areas. That is what makes this boundary change proposal feasible. Currently in the pocket bus area, there are 5 middle school students and 5 high school students that attend Joel P. Jensen and Copper Hills. Actually, 2 of the
Attend Copper Hills or West Jordan?
two attend Copper Hills on permit that the board
okay.
approved previously on permits. 3 attend West Jordan High School. So 5 high school kids, but split 3 and 2. So that's what we're here to discuss tonight, just to see if the board has an appetite to move forward with this boundary change. Mr. Feston's got the boundary updates up there. We can answer questions specific to areas and study areas and our forecasted growth.
Yeah, just to clarify, these are not the boundary proposals. These are the
No.
existing boundaries.
Yep, these are just right off of our own district map.
So
And
this is our high school boundaries. To orient you, this is Mountain View Corridor, coming here through the middle of the map. Highway 111, Bacchus Highway here on the west side. This is 7800 south, coming east and west. So the
So where's the
area
pocket
in, so the
bus?
area in light green is pocket bust area to, in this map, this is to West Jordan High School. We have a middle school map. The dark blue area on here is pocket bus to Joel P. Jensen Middle School.
So there's only 10 right now. What's that going to look like 6 months from now?
About 10. The growth is coming in a lot slower than we had anticipated. There is development happening, but it's slow. It's really slow.
The development that's happening is either high-end homes
Right.
or high-density homes, neither of which yield secondary students.
And will you share with us, Mr. Feston, the projected numbers at Sunset Ridge and Copper Hills over the next couple, 2-3 years?
Yeah, so you got that in the talking points.
For Copper Hills, as of today, our 2.0 numbers for Copper Hills has them at 2,947, and then and they've been that way for a while. 3 years from now, we have them actually dipping by about 300. So over the next 3 years, dipping by about 100 a year, which would easily offset the students that would be moving into this area. Joel P. Jensen, Sunset Ridge, we have projected for 2.0 at 1,419. In 3 years, that will go down to about 1,357. So again, a modest decline in that it's just a built out area, and so there will be a modest decline to offset the move-ins to this area over the next 3 to 5 years or more, even beyond that.
So what you need from us is direction if we want to go ahead and start the boundary change process. And if so, then we notify people. 90 days. We have 90 days. Bring us maps.
Correct. Yeah, we would bring you maps as we have in the past sometime in September. We talk about actual numbers. We'd have better numbers in October once we do our counts, but we would need to notify the entities. So that includes, of course, West Jordan City Council and Mayor. There is also unincorporated Salt Lake County impacted in this boundary, and so we would have to notify the county mayor and county council, and then of course the patrons, the parents of the 4 impacted schools.
Can we expand that just in case? Could we do West Jordan High School, Copper Hills High School, West Jordan Middle School, Joel P. Jensen, Sunset Ridge, and West Hills?
How would West
And
Jordan
open
Middle-
the door to the problem is if we're going to notify those communities, I'd rather say, never mind, we're not going to, than, oh, whoops, in the process, we discovered this and now we are.
Okay, so you're suggesting adding
My
West
vote would be to notify
Jordan Middle.
all of the city of West Jordan of potential middle school and high school changes, and then we start exploring the options. That would be my vote.
I think
Now, what about West Hills Middle as well?
West Hills, Sunset Ridge,
West
all
Jordan.
West Jordan middle schools and high schools, because I'm not ready to take any of them off the table.
Are you thinking about more than just these 10 students?
I think
Are you
in the
wanting
process-
other boundary changes?
I'm only thinking of the 10 students, but I just want to open the door to the possibility that as we look at this, we may discover other Moab-like needs, and we're going to come back and say, dang, I wish we would have notified West Hills because now we've got a corner of their boundary.
Well, I think that's my question. Are you going to ask staff to look at other things, or do you want them just focused on this pocket bus area?
I think they're already looking that way, and I would like to authorize that.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of alerting a community that probably isn't going to be impacted. We're starting this early enough, and the timetable now is 90 days, not 120. I would just rather notify these 10 families and the minimum number of people we need to, and if we see something, I don't mind kicking the can down and approving it later, but boundary changes and school closures are things that really get people upset and frustrated. They start to worry, and I just don't want to alert people that don't need to be alerted. That's me.
My thoughts always go back to our already approved school closure policy. We should already be being.
You're saying notify.
I would,
Lots
I
of
agree
schools.
with Bryce,
Okay.
or with Mr. Dunford, sir.
My name's Bryce. You can call me Bryce.
I'm supposed to be formal in meetings.
Bryce is my formal name.
To clarify, the law does require us to notify any potentially impacted school. And this proposal tonight, as of right now, would impact Joel P. Jensen Middle School, West Jordan High School, Copper Hills High School, and Sunset Ridge Middle School. Those 4, we could expand it to any if the board chooses to.
It makes sense to me just to do those 4 right now and wait until this fall when we have our bigger recommendations coming from staff before we notify any others that there might be changes. But help me think this through. Would it be better to have those notified now in case the recommendations do come back in the fall for more changes?
I think what Mr. Dunford's saying is if there was another area while we were looking at this, we would, our anticipated, after talking with the facilities committee, was just to look at the pocket bus area and nothing else. We've looked at other areas and didn't find anything immediately available that wouldn't cause a domino effect to occur in other areas, but I'm not ruling out the possibility of finding a pocket here or there or something that might also be impacted.
West Hills enrollment in our last projection was going to drop by 160 students. So West Hills is dropping.
Is West Hills the closest one to Sunset Ridge?
Yes.
Yes.
Does it matter if it's on the agenda or not? You know, the agenda is very specific about potential boundary changes for the areas of pocket busing for Joel P. Jensen Middle School and West Jordan High School. So is it okay to move from the agenda?
Yeah, because that's still the area we're talking about, but now we're talking about which schools to notify that they might get moved to.
So like the students that are being pocket bused might potentially be moved to West Hills?
That's what we're saying. We want to leave that
Or
option
students
open.
in Sunset Ridge currently could potentially get moved down.
I know that there are ongoing conversations regarding Joel P. Jensen, and that will be the case for the next while. There's nothing that says we can't start our 90 days at a different time for other schools. I just hate to alert people and get them all hopped up and not have anything come of it. Like I say, we could start our 90 days if indeed that happens down the road.
Well, and if I'm understanding it correctly, Mr. Feston, and stop me if I'm wrong, but if we do something small, like a smaller boundary change right now to include the pocket bus students into Sunset Ridge, and that's it. It's a Band-Aid that will probably last around 5 years.
Thereabouts.
We're kicking the can down the road. So the question is not, should we have a conversation? It's when.
And this isn't really a Band-Aid that's going to address a critical need because the students in that area could keep going. There's room at the current schools they are going to. It's more out of a convenience for the people there that they would not have to travel and be pocket bused to the schools currently. We've heard from several patrons that are opposed to the idea. That's kind of what precipitated the discussion in the first place. It's not because we're sending them to schools that are over enrolled or maxed out in their capacities.
Sunset Ridge.
But currently they're not going to Sunset Ridge. They're going to Joel P. And this would enable them to go to Sunset Ridge, who is very high in their enrollment. Copper Hills is very high in their enrollment, but they will be beginning to decline over the next few years.
And when we made this decision, we were kind of panicking because the numbers were skyrocketing. And so it was our protection for the future. But now all of a sudden things have softened a little bit. And so what we were anticipating is coming isn't coming. So for me, the question is pocket busing. The other component is a whole different topic, and to add them together without preparing, I think, is dangerous. I don't mind us addressing both, but I think they're two separate situations.
So name me the schools again. Bryce,
I'm
that you want to
proposing
include.
adding West Hills and West Jordan Middle. That's all I'm proposing. Same four, plus West Hills and West Jordan.
And I can see West Hills, but not West Jordan. Or at least not yet. I think that will come, but I want the whole plan.
School closure. I don't know that I want to get them all hopped up again.
Okay, so where do we start? Let's start with the recommendation. So we have to for sure notify, first of all, is everyone wanting to move forward with some sort of boundary change for the pocket busing people?
So we would do away with all pocket busing, not just the areas where these 10.
No, just this area.
It would be the whole pocket busing area west of U-111,
Okay.
Yeah.
most of which is undeveloped and undevelopable. But
You want to move forward with something?
Yeah, I want to move forward with the pocket busing.
Okay. Nikki?
Yes.
Carolyn, Lisa's no.
Yes.
Brian, yes. Bryce, yes. I'm yes. Okay. The next question is, so let's start with, so we for sure need to notify Joel P. and West Jordan High School because it would be moving kids out of their boundaries. Then the current proposal is to also notify Sunset Ridge, West Hills Middle.
No.
Sorry.
Copper Hills.
Sunset Ridge, Copper Hills. No, I'm doing yours.
Oh,
West Hills and West Jordan Middle School. Okay, all in favor of notifying all of those schools?
Can I
Or do you have
ask
questions?
a clarifying question?
Uh-huh.
There's 10 families that are going to be affected?
10 students.
10 students.
Today.
So why are we notifying an entire population that there might be a boundary change if it's just going to affect 10 students?
That's what the state code requires.
We have to notify the school that, any school that we might be moving students to and any school that we might be taking students from.
It's kind of like when we go into closed session, you say all of them, so you have the option to say all of them. You know what I mean?
So there's 6 or 7 families that are going to be affected.
right now.
But we're going to notify 1,000 families and that there's a potential boundary change that might affect you or whatever the
Yes.
notice is.
And get them all up in arms.
Now those numbers are current. There are, a few thousand housing units in various stages of planning and construction in this area. As Ms. George pointed out, this change would be good for a few years, but then we would definitely need to readdress as more homes come online. The school age population in our county, I went and checked the long range projections. It's from the University of Utah. Last year was the peak number of school age students in Salt Lake County. It's not expected to return to last year's levels until beyond 2060.
How do they know how many kids they're going to have in 2060? That's my question.
Dr. Robinson.
I think I'll be. I think I'll be going downhill between now and 2060 as well.
Won't we all?
But
Won't we all?
I think
I will not be on the board in 2060.
I think that the
Ionara.
your point is well taken, and I've been jammed up in the past where I was vague about what the boundary change was going to be because I didn't want to suggest that I knew the outcome. And it was a school we were only considering moving students to, not moving students from, and everyone thought they were going to be moved away from their school. So I had several meetings where I had to try to calm that without predicting an outcome. But the impact, the immediate impact here, even if we only notify the 4, is small. But I do think that they will it will catch their attention that we're moving large, unpopulated areas into their boundary potentially, because then if you're on the east side of a school boundary, then you may remember Moab proposals and you may feel that shadow lurking a little bit. So I do think they'll have some interest in hearing it. I agree with your point that it seems like a lot of notification for 8 kids, but it's required by law, and it will give people kind of a heads up of where things could be headed.
I also think as we look at these numbers and the growth that's forecasted out there, I think most people would be surprised if we told them that in the next 5 years that 20 to 30 new students would be moving into that area for both each the middle school and the high school. I think they see the 1,000 homes being built and assume that there are 1,000 kids, one student per home. It's just not the case. But to Superintendent's point, people perceive it differently, and that could cause a range of emotions. If they see that this whole area of undeveloped is going to be staged to be moved to my middle school or to my high school, that could be like, oh my gosh, we're already maxed out and they're proposing this. We just have to do a very clear and good job of educating people on the potential numbers and be very clear with what that means in the near future.
When we notify, that doesn't mean they're going to bring back a recommendation that will affect those schools. They could come back and say, okay, we notified this school, but we don't recommend making any changes there. We've done that before, in fact.
Yeah.
And as soon as we produce maps, those communities will say, oh, okay. I don't think their feathers will be ruffled until they start to see the maps.
And we notify them with the maps?
Yeah, if there was a...
Start the 90 days then?
Yeah, and the maps, this is a different type of boundary change than we've done in the past, because it's really just the pocket bus area to this school, and there's not going to be options A, B, and C potential. I mean, there always could be, but the proposal will be pretty straightforward, unlike any recent boundary change we've done.
Well, some kid loves his bus driver.
So the next presentation could be, this is the option, this is what it looks like, this is what the projections look like. Are you comfortable with our putting that out as a survey? And then when you say yes, then we send it out, and we could send the letter out with the maps.
With the next,
Can we notify?
Is that accurate?
Wait and notify after the next meeting?
Yeah, we have, as of today, there's 133 days until the November 28th board meeting. That's what, if we're just working off of that, which is based on fall break and things, that's what we've done in the past, is the end of November. So 133 days, we have 90 days. So we have another month and a little bit to really hit the 90-day notification. Not that we want to butt right up against that, but we do have some time.
And I'd like to point out too that right now we're working off of our forecasted 2.0 numbers. We won't have real numbers of students until they show up on the first day of school. And then our real forecast for the next 5 years won't happen until October.
I would say just wait until the next meeting and send a notification out when we know what schools we're going to.
We could bring maps back with understanding what Mr. Hamlin just said, the proposals. We could bring it back by August 8th and with a map of what we could potentially look at, and the board could decide at that point whether or not you wanted to notify which communities.
Okay, thoughts on that?
Is that?
I'm fine with that as
We can
long
do that.
as we're granting them permission to really look at what's the very best possibility, that we don't narrow where they're looking. We allow them to say, oh, well, what about this? And then they come back with, you know what, we hadn't thought about this, but after thinking, this is what we would propose. That's the only reason I'm trying to spread the net wide. So if we're going to make the notifications after the map, then I would spread the net wide there.
Yep, I think I like that. So everyone else okay with that, saying you look at all possibilities?
That's
Then
a
it
lot
might
of
be an A, B, and
possibilities.
C.
So
Okay,
all
maybe not all
possibilities of
possibilities.
what?
The best possibilities for these pocket bus students.
Oh.
And then, is there an appetite among those in this room to help these students out this year? Sunset Ridge has about 100 students that we don't think are coming back, and we could move to tier 3 permits and help them out. I would love to see us do that now.
And that would take board action if, as a board, we decide we want to move Sunset Ridge and Copper Hills.
Copper Hills already got approved, so it would just be
move
Sunset Ridge.
to tier 3 so they can take more permits.
So my only problem is learning from other districts that they had made decisions that made it look like it was a far-grown conclusion they were going to do something. And so it would make it look like, and maybe it already is, it's a far-grown conclusion we're going to do away with pocket busing, because if we revoke the permit thing, we've already set the precedent.
I
So-
am very comfortable with that being a bygone conclusion.
I'm not comfortable though with the perception out there in the larger community, not our district, that decisions are not going through the process, because that's been labeled at many districts recently, and
Over school closures.
over
but-
school
But I
closures.
think
and-
we
Same law.
have justification in saying last year we couldn't. Sunset Ridge did not have the capacity, and now they do.
My
Things
question
have
is, this really even a boundary change? Because it's a transportation issue, really.
It was set as a boundary.
Yeah.
Has to be
Boundary.
boundary.
Yeah.
I'm open to
I am too.
changing Sunset Ridge's permit tier for this year.
I am too.
Okay,
Do,
that's 4
can I
people.
motion that?
Yeah,
Does it have to be motioned? And can I do that in?
I would be more comfortable if administration just let them in.
Larson, thoughts?
From my perspective, I'd be more comfortable if that were on an agenda first. Changing the permit.
Copper Hills was.
Copper Hills was in a study session, right? We talked about it just requires board approval for a tier 3 exception. It would be a study session item for the Ridge as well.
I think you can make the motion to bring it and put it on the agenda for next time, but I think that that's probably a little bit different, because that wasn't specifically on the agenda.
I don't know what we're talking about when we say tier 3 and
Number
changing
of permits you can offer.
number of permits.
So
So
it
you
would
want
just
to
How far
enable
above
the
the threshold you
principal
can
to
go.
accept these students as out-of-boundary permit students.
What level of enrollment do they have right now? Is it high enough that it requires formal board approval for that to go forward?
I think it requires board discussion.
I don't think board approval is required. I think board notification is the
Notification
policy.
and board discussion.
As a courtesy, you notify the board, but it is not required. Our approval is not required for tier 3.
That's what I thought. So I
We could
think
reach out to the principal and send a Skylar.
Is enough.
I don't know that further board action is required, but we would be required to notify the board. And this discussion, are you comfortable if the follow-up notification from this discussion is an individual email to each board member to put in writing what was discussed tonight following a discussion with the principal? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
John, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just didn't want board action on something that didn't have an agenda item on it.
I think
So
we can.
if no action is needed, then
I think
no
we can
agenda.
follow our current process, be true to that, without the board taking formal action.
And then Paul Bajero would need to be alerted to it as well.
We can take care of that.
Yeah, question on that. So they can still go to their boundary school. So will we provide transportation still to their boundary school, which is Joel P. and West Jordan High School? We would still need to do that next year if students chose to stay there.
For one kid?
The option of reimbursing.
Yeah, I think we would let superintendent work that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, tier 1, discussion with AOS. Tier 2, approval from AOS, notification to the board. Tier 3, approval from cabinet, discussion by board. So we've met the policy.
Okay.
Well, we don't
Thank
have
you.
to make a decision.
I'll follow up with or we will follow up with an email. When I say I mean someone else.
How many happy
I wish I could do that.
I will read it.
It doesn't work in my
And I mean, someone else is going to read
Yeah,
it.
there you go. There you go. See?
May I
Feels
ask
good,
a
doesn't
clarifying
it?
question?
Yes, Mr. Havlin.
In this approval that Mr. Dunford is talking about, are you asking or authorizing us to explore options that may exist in current schools that may look better at other schools? Okay, so not just the pocket bus areas, but other areas that may be
Sometimes
reasonable.
when you pick up a rock, you notice a few things underneath it.
Okay. All right, just wanted to clarify that.
I mean, that's what led to Moab. Hey, while we were looking at this, here's what we noticed.
Please don't do that.
I
You did not
remember
have
it
my
well.
permission to do that.
Yeah, I remember it
That
well.
was a big rock.
Do you find it,
I won't pick up or I can't pick it up anymore. I'm too old now.
But you're only looking for boundary changes, not school closure, right?
yeah,
That
this
is
is
the
not,
direction that you.
we're not talking school closures here. Boundary changes, and if there are more complex changes that we bring, it may be past the August 8th. But if we're talking about the pocket bus as discussed tonight, it could be as soon as August 8th. If it's beyond that, or if we need to push the to the next board meeting, we can let you know.
Now, Sunset Ridge is already tier 3,
Sunset Ridge is tier 3.
so we're not changing anything.
No.
So
So
how
it's-
come they're not accepting permits then if they're?
Haven't had the discussion and cabinet approval for Sunset Ridge. We did discuss Copper Hills back in March, I believe.
March or April, yeah.
We did not have that discussion about Sunset Ridge.
Okay, thank you. We will eventually see you on August 8th.
Happy to be here.
Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
I make the motion to go into closed session for character and competence of individuals, property, potential litigation, negotiations, and security.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Richards, second by Mr. Barnett. Roll call vote. Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. George?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Dunford?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. We will go into closed session. Thank you to all of those who are listening in and joining us tonight.
Enjoy your night.
Have a good night.